My husband and I have weathered the storms of life together for 50 years. Only on the verge of death did I realize that my Yandra's son, whom I raised with my own hands, turns out it's the bastard child of a mistress. One, Xiao Yuqing and I have weathered 50 years of ups and downs together, and we raised a pair of twin children. Our son was frail and sickly from childhood, so I devoted myself to caring for him and worked hard to raise him, which led me to neglect our daughter. I lay on the hospital bed, with the doctor urging me on, saying the patient's condition was critical and the family needed to make a decision quickly. Surgery had to be performed immediately. If surgery is performed, the patient has a good chance of recovery. At that moment, my lips were cracked and dry, and my throat couldn't produce a sound. I looked longingly at my husband in the hospital room, because I am also a doctor, and I knew that after the surgery, I could live at least another 10 years. As my husband was hesitating, my cousin and my son Xiaoheng walked in together, my son's face filled with sorrow. Doctor, we're giving up treatment, we don't want my mom to suffer anymore. The doctor sighed helplessly and walked away. This son was frail and sickly since childhood. I took him to countless major hospitals across the country, yet, when I was gravely ill, he chose to give up treatment over a surgery cost of just a few tens of thousands. My heart has never ached like this before. My cousin Shenmei came up to me, leaned in, and whispered in my ear, Shenwaning, as a token of gratitude, I'll let you in on a secret before you die. Xiaoheng is actually my son. You only gave birth to a daughter back then. Brother Yuqing lied to you, saying you had twins, just to make you feel you had both a son and a daughter. I never expected you'd be so good to this sickly child, giving everything to treat his illness. Out of thanks, I'm telling you this so you can die knowing the truth. Strictly speaking, though, my son is about 3 days older than your daughter. My eyes widened in disbelief. My devotion to my frail son led me to neglect my healthy daughter, who has always been cared for by my mother-in-law. While I was taking my son to another city for medical treatment during one of his episodes, my daughter accidentally fell into the river. The sharp rocks in the water cut her cheek, but my mother-in-law didn't take her to see a doctor. By the time I returned, the wound on her face had become infected and festered. Even after it healed, it left a severe scar. My cheerful daughter became timid and withdrawn, no longer leaving the house. With my last ounce of strength, I bit through my lip, letting the pain sear the hatred of this lifetime into my memory. If there is a next life, I will never marry this man again too. When I opened my eyes again, I was reborn 3 days before my wedding. There were many people at home, all fellow villagers who came to help deliver my dowry. According to the custom here, the dowry is sent 3 days before the wedding banquet. However, the groom must come to pick up the bride in person, a custom known as receiving blessings. But today, Xiaoyu City, just like in the previous life, didn't show up. Shenmei said her son is 3 days older than my daughter. In the previous life, the day after I married Xiaoyu City, he went back to the army, and a month later, I found out I was pregnant. That means, on this very day in the previous life, he was with Shenmei. The mere thought of it makes me sick to my stomach. In my previous life, Shenmei disappeared after I became pregnant. The next time I saw her was at our child's 1-month celebration. Xiao Yuqing's family was not well off. His parents were simple farmers, and he had 2 younger brothers and a younger sister. He's not exactly the sharpest tool in the shed, but he does put in the effort. Still, without my uncle pulling strings for him, there's no way he'd have climbed the ladder so fast in his past life. Shenmei is my uncle's daughter. She's a year older than me. Growing up, my aunt always favored the son over the daughter, so Shenmei never had as good food or clothes as I did, though, to be honest, my stuff was all thanks to my uncle's chipping in too. Even my current dowry was put together by my uncles. Shenmei loves to compete with me. Whatever I have, she wants it. I guess the same goes for men. Since that's the case, I'll just let her have this one. 2. Seeing the flatbed cart carrying the dowry about to leave, I quickly stopped it. Hold on. My voice made the villagers who were about to set off pause in their tracks. If Xiao Yuqing doesn't have time to pick up the dowry, then there's no need to send it. I'm not getting married. Everyone exchanged awkward glances. In our tradition here, if the groom doesn't come in person to pick up the dowry, it shows a lack of respect for the bride's family. In my past life, I thought such trivial matters weren't worth fussing over and ignored the villagers' gossip. Just then, an auntie came up to praise me. Girl, you've come to your senses. I knew you wouldn't be that foolish. How could the groom not come to pick up the dowry himself? Not picking up the dowry means he doesn't care. That's always been the tradition. Auntie objected. It's already loaded on the cart. Just send it off. Why all these rules? In my previous life, My aunt also advised me this way. In my past life, I never saw a single cent of Xiao Yuqing's allowance, yet my uncle's family, idle and gluttonous, lived in the lap of luxury. Looking back now, it's not hard to guess why their family lived so well in their previous life. Auntie is already speaking up for Xiao Yuqing. She must have gotten her cut long ago. My dad looked troubled. The banquet is all prepared, and the wedding is set. Wanting, marriage is no joke. Dad, I know marriage is not a game, so it's better to cut my losses before anything happens, but... My mom slapped my dad on the arm and said, but what? He can't even be bothered to come pick up the dowry. What earth-shattering business could he possibly have that's so important he can't make time for it? That's it, no wedding. My daughter says no, so it's off. My mother's protection brought tears to my eyes. In my past life, because of that bastard's illness, I had no time to take care of my parents. My mom even had to subsidize my medical expenses. All the money I had went toward treating that child, leaving me no energy to work, so I ended up taking an unpaid leave of absence early on. When my mother was critically ill, I was still rushing around at a hospital in the capital, tending to someone else's child. My mother passed away while I was on the train back home, and I didn't even get to see her one last time. I hugged my mom, my voice choked with emotion. I'm sorry, Mom. Oh, you silly child. Marriage is a lifelong commitment. You haven't let anyone down, just make sure you've thought it through. But my grandma was not happy. You've been engaged for years, and now that it's time to prepare the dowry, you suddenly want to call off the banquet. Why didn't you think of that sooner? Look at you. Do you have any sense like Xiaomei does? If you break off the engagement now, she'll be a woman married twice, who would want her in the future. My grandmother is extremely partial to Uncle's family. In fact, Uncle and my father are not biological brothers. Uncle is a posthumous child my grandmother brought with her when she remarried. In my past life, my mother's early death was largely her doing. She made my mother do all the chores, tormented her every single day, and refused to let them split the family property. Uncle's family had moved out long ago after getting married, yet she kept subsidizing them endlessly. Of course, she had no income of her own. The money she handed out was all from the earnings my dad and second uncle contributed. My grandmother raised my uncle's 3 kids, but she barely gave my brother and me a glance. Grandpa tapped his pipe and said to Grandma, mind your own business. Wanning's matters are for her parents to decide. We have no right to interfere. Grandma indeed flew off the handle. As long as the family isn't split up, I have the right to call the shots. Send the dowry right now. Go, hurry up and go. Then let's split the family. This was the first time in my 2 lifetimes that I saw my mom talk back to my grandma. My grandma was taken aback, then grabbed a willow branch to hit my mom. You wretch, how dare you talk back? I snatched the wicker and threw it to the ground. My grandma came up to hit me, but I ignored her and hid behind my grandpa. I said to my grandpa, Grandpa, I just don't get it. Why is grandma always so partial to uncle? My cousins on my father's side were all raised by grandma. The money my dad and second uncle earned, she used to subsidize eldest uncle. My dad and second uncle have had to defer to eldest uncle since childhood. Since when do younger brothers have to give way to older ones? Grandpa, is this what they mean by love me, love my dog? My grandfather used to teach in the village. The phrase love me, love my dog might be lost on many rural folks, but my grandfather would definitely understand it. Grandpa's face changed instantly. I understood. This was the thorn that had always been lodged in Grandpa's heart. In my past life, I overheard him and Grandma arguing. She called him a useless failure, that he couldn't even give her a good life. Grandpa told Grandma to go find her damn ex-husband. No matter how impressive he was, he died long ago. Grandpa was always resentful of Grandma's favoritism. He had long wanted to split the family apart, fuming that the money his own son earned went to support someone else's son. But Grandma would throw tantrums, making scenes, and threatening suicide, while Grandpa, being a teacher, cared a lot about his reputation and didn't want the whole village to know about the trouble. So he just kept putting up with it. My grandmother is a typical rural woman. She simply can't understand what I say. Shen Wanning, you little girl, so what if I favor your eldest uncle? He's handsome, smart, and filial, unlike your father and second uncle, who are just like your grandfather, working like mules all day long. That grandma really has no sense. She even fanned the flames for me against Grandpa. She was clearly implying that my grandfather is inferior to her ex-husband. Enough, since you think so highly of the eldest, let's split the family. After the split, you can go and live with him. Grandma was stunned. She never expected Grandpa to say, "Isn't this all for Wanning's own good? If she breaks off the engagement now, she'll be considered a second-time bride. Who would want her then? If that counts as a second marriage, then what does that make you? Does the eldest count as a child born out of wedlock?" Grandpa didn't spare Grandma's face, because she indeed never married Uncle's father, so Grandpa tore her dignity right off. For the first time in all these years, Grandma was embarrassed when Grandpa brought up the fact that she had been remarried in front of so many people. Unable to save face, she started wiping away her tears. 3. Just as I was about to turn up the heat, Xiao's parents burst into the yard. I have no idea who tipped them off. Xiao's mother hurried over and grabbed my hand. "Ning Ning, Auntie knows this is Xiao Yuqing's fault. I've already sent his uncles to find him. Don't worry, Yuqing is just too willful, that little brat. I won't let him off easy. Auntie promises you marriage is such a big deal, you must never act on impulse." I smiled at Xiao's mother, but my mind was filled with images of her beating and scolding my daughter in my past life. "And Xiao, since Xiao Yuqing doesn't want to get married, don't force him." It suddenly occurred to me, something I had completely forgotten: Shenmei couldn't marry Xiao Yuqing unless he left the military, because Shenmei's maternal grandfather was a former spy. Her grandmother and mother had been living in the countryside all along, so they weren't too badly affected. Later, they publicly cut ties with him through a newspaper announcement, which was the only way they managed to survive. But Shenmei's political background check will definitely not pass. No wonder I lived in secrecy my entire past life. I was just their scapegoat all along. Just then I spotted a familiar face in the crowd. Fu Nanqiu. In my past life, after I got engaged, he married Lu Caixia, the daughter of the village head from the next village over. He was forced into the marriage by Lu Caixia, who used her father's position as village head to pressure him. Because Fu Nanqiu's family used to be landlords, they were heavily ostracized in the village. If he didn't marry Lu Caixia, his younger siblings wouldn't be able to go to school. He didn't want them to stay stuck in the mud forever. He wanted them to get out. Even though the college entrance exam was temporarily suspended, he firmly believed that education would change their fate. After marrying Lu Caixia, she became incredibly difficult and dramatic. She suspected every day that he was seeing someone else. Simply because Fu Nanqiu was indeed very handsome in the village, Fu Nanqiu would go out of her way to avoid any auntie in her 40s or 50s. Otherwise, Lu Caixia would chase after them and hurl insults. I'd been scolded too. Once, my daughter fell into the river and Fu Nanqiu saved her. I came back with gifts to thank him, but I was yelled at and kicked out. Another time, my dad broke his leg on the mountain, and Fu Nanqiu carried him down. Of course, I got scolded again. This time, they came to my house to do it. My mom once told me that before I was betrothed to Xiao Yuqing, Fu Nanqiu's father had secretly proposed to her on my behalf, but my mom turned him down because she didn't like their family background. Later, I heard from one of Fu Nanqiu's friends that Fu Nanqiu has always liked me. Fu Nanqiu froze for a moment when he heard me call his name, thinking he must have misheard. "Fu Nanqiu, will you marry me?" These words hit like a thunderbolt, sending the yard into chaos. After the noise, a profound silence. My mom came up and pinched me hard. "You little brat, what do you think you're doing?" My dad also tugged at me. "Ning Ning, don't talk nonsense." I shook off my parents and walked over to Fu Nanqiu, who looked totally confused. "I'll ask you one last time, will you marry me?" Fu Nanqiu snapped out of it as if waking from a daze, his eyes red and lips trembling. "Yes, I will." His voice quivered with excitement. I turned to my mom with a smile and said, "I'm marrying Fu Nanqiu. You two can start preparing the dowry." My grandpa was patting his chest to calm himself down. I knew he doted on me, so I ran over and whispered to him, "Grandpa, Fu Nanqiu has had a crush on me for years." But I never agreed. His family background might not be great, but he's hardworking and doesn't play around. "Grandfather, breaking off the engagement will definitely affect my reputation, but I'll tell you the truth, the reason I called it off is that Xiao Yuqing and my cousin Shenmei were having an affair. I held back today to save face for our family, that's why I didn't expose them." Grandpa looked at me in disbelief. He had always doted on me and trusted me. Shenmei was Uncle's child, so naturally, Grandpa didn't think much of her. Grandpa thought for a moment, nodded, and said, "All right, Grandpa agrees. Child, your grandfather has wronged your father and your uncle. Tomorrow, we'll divide the family property." I hugged Grandpa and said, "Grandpa, I'll take care of you when you're old." Grandpa affectionately ruffled my hair. My grandpa tapped his pipe. "Fu boy, you'd better treat Ning girl well from now on." Fu Manchu nodded vigorously as Grandpa gave the order to send the dowry. The courtyard buzzed with activity once more. My grandmother slammed the door and stormed into the house in anger. Auntie's face was deathly pale as she staggered home. The two elders of the Shao family were pacing around in a panic. They came over to grab my mother's hand again, but she shook them off. They tried to stop the dowry procession but were held back by the aunties who had gathered to watch the fun. For amid the blaring of trumpets and beating of drums all the way, Fu Manchu felt as if she were walking on air. Everything was just too surreal. When the dowry arrived at Fu Manchu's home, her parents were still inside sorting beans. Mom and Dad, I'm getting married the day after tomorrow, and today I'm sending the dowry. With a clatter, the beans scattered all over the floor. The governess was the first to react, tears streaming down her face as she hurried into the house to clear a space for the dowry. I actually have a decent dowry. My 3 uncles. 2 are military officers and 1 is the head of a supply and marketing cooperative. My mother is the only daughter in the family, and the uncles dote on her, but they're also frustrated that she's too timid and can't stand on her own. Since Xiao Yuqing's family wasn't well off, my uncles pooled together to give me the 3 turns, 1 sound, and 72 legs as a dowry. Back then, Xiao Yuqing's parents paraded it around the village, boasting endlessly. After the dowry was set up, I asked Fu Manchu to ride the bicycle from the dowry and take me to the commune to make a phone call. The dirt road was bumpy, and I wrapped my arms around his waist from the back of the bike. The coarse fabric rubbed against my palms, but I could clearly feel the taut lines of his muscles beneath. As he pedaled, his back rose and fell, carrying the scent of sweat-soaked soap. Suddenly, my body lurched forward uncontrollably as we hit a pothole, my forehead pressing against his burning back. He turned his head with a soft chuckle, the vibration of his Adam's apple rolling down his spine to his fingertips. Hold tight. I pressed my face against his back and felt him stiffen for just a moment. Listening to the clatter of the chain and his gradually quickening breaths, I suddenly felt that this bumpy dirt road was just the right amount of rough. When he arrived at the commune, the tips of his ears were flushed. I called my uncle in the military district and said, "Uncle, I've changed the groom. Don't give my marriage report to Xiao Yuqing." I told my uncle the whole story, and he slammed the table in anger. The marriage application had been filed with the military unit all along. The original plan was to hold the wedding banquet and then go to the unit to formalize the paperwork, but in the previous life, something came up at the unit, and we ended up getting the marriage certificate 3 months later. In the countryside, people don't have a strong attachment to the marriage certificate. Everyone agrees that once the wedding banquet is held, you're considered a real couple. Fu Manchu grinned from ear to ear the whole time, like a total goofball. I remember that in my past life, on the day of the wedding banquet with Xiao Yuqing, he didn't crack a smile the entire time. My mother was so furious that she secretly wiped away her tears. Fu Manchu walked me to my doorstep, then suddenly the smile vanished from his face. "Shen Wanning, are you serious, or are you just using me to make Xiao Yuqing jealous? If you really just want to make Xiao Yuqing angry, I'll send your dowry back in a few days. I'm willing to help you." I stepped forward and took his hand, finding his palm was sweaty. "I'm serious, from now on, call me Wanning." Then I gave him a quick peck on the cheek and ran back home. Fu Manchu's ears turned red again, covering half of his face with one hand. He pushed the cart back. I walked into the house with a big smile on my face, but the moment I saw Xiao Yuqing waiting for me there, my expression instantly fell. He strode over and yanked me toward him. "Shen Wanning, how could you make a scene over something as big as marriage?" I tried to break free from his grip, but he held on tighter. My father immediately stepped in to stop him, shoving Xiao Yuqing off balance. "Xiao Yuqing, the engagement is off. Stop manhandling her and sit down so we can talk this out." Xiao Yuqing let go and demanded angrily, "What are you making a fuss about? If you won't marry a soldier, do you want to marry a peasant instead?" "Yes, I'd rather marry a farmer." My dad couldn't help but frown. "Xiao Yuqing, after all these years, I never thought you'd turn out to be this kind of person. You didn't even come to pick up the dowry, and you still have the nerve to question my daughter." Xiao Yuqing thinks he's something special just because he's in the military and a company commander, looking down on others like a snob, still putting on airs at a time like this. I find him utterly ridiculous. "Uncle Shen, I was delayed today because something urgent came up," Xiao Yuqing explained. "What urgent business could you possibly have at my uncle's place?" Contributing to the survival of the human race, I called him out without holding back. Xiao Yuqing's expression instantly changed. You, how dare you talk nonsense?" The way his eyes darted away already gave my dad the answer. My dad sneered, tomorrow I'll find the matchmaker and return your family's betrothal gifts. From now on, we'll have nothing to do with each other. Xiao Yuqing only panicked when he heard that my family was serious. He always thought I was bluffing. He believed that. After chasing after him for 4 years, I couldn't live without him. Ningning, it's not what you think, let me explain. Alright, tell me, what exactly were you doing at my uncle's place today? What could there possibly be to keep you so busy at his house? He was about to say that he hadn't been at my uncle's place today, but seeing how certain I sounded, he didn't dare to argue. He still wanted to resist, because he knew how much of an advantage my uncle in the military could give him. In the end, he was shoved out of the yard by my brother. 5. Standing in the yard that morning, I still felt dazed, not yet disentangled from the joy of being reborn. A heavy knock came from outside the door, along with the noise of voices opening the courtyard gate. A large crowd was gathered at the entrance, with Fu Nanchu surrounded in the middle. Behind him, 4 people were carrying 2 large chests. TSK, that Fu Nanchu really knows how to play the part, coming over to deliver betrothal gifts to Little Ning. The aunties all chimed in at once. My parents and brother also rushed out of the house, and 2 large suitcases were escorted into the yard. Let's open it and see what's inside, someone in the crowd started, and the excitement spread. Yeah, open it up. Let's compare it with what the Xiao family gave us and see which side is more sincere. Actually, I knew that Fu Nanchu's family had been raided before, so there was no way they'd have anything valuable left. Even if they did, they wouldn't dare show it openly. I refused to open the box. Who inspects a dowry like that? I'm not that naive. After the crowd dispersed, the chest was carried into the house. Fu Nanchu handed me the key to the chest. I took the key and put it away. I saw the disappointment in his eyes. I explained to him in a low voice that I couldn't open the chest today because my family was dividing the property, and opening it would make it easy for others to covet it. I saw a gleam of light in his eyes after seeing Fu Nanchu off. Sure enough, Grandpa spoke up and told my second uncle to fetch the village chief. Second uncle was so excited that he couldn't wait to run to the village chief's house. My grandmother also rushed out, and I knew right away, she was definitely going to find my uncle. Everyone was assembled, along with many villagers. Grandpa spoke up first. Children grow up and eventually need to split the family estate. Today, I'm asking the village head to help us divide it. Eldest son, you've already been living separately since you got married, so this doesn't concern you. Just sit back and enjoy the spectacle. My grandmother immediately objected. Why should the eldest be left out of the division of family property? Everyone should get a share when splitting the assets. Your stepfather is so biased. The crowd murmured in disbelief. Who didn't know that the eldest uncle had long been separated from the family back then? Auntie couldn't take it anymore. Kai Jinhua, how many more times is your eldest son going to take things from the Shin family? Exactly, so shameless. It's not enough that they've been raised. Taking a share of someone else's stuff once isn't enough. They have to take another share. He came with nothing, grew up eating the Shin family's food. Hasn't he become a leech? The crowd was buzzing with chatter. My grandfather was really disheartened. Who else finishes dividing the family property once and then does it again? If you want to split it again, first return the money and things from the first division, and make up for the money you should have contributed to the family in recent years. My grandmother turned into a shrew, sitting on the ground and slapping her thighs. The village chief scolded. Kai Jinhua, that's enough. These 2 are also your children. Don't play favorites. My grandmother mumbled and fell silent, then stood up, dusted off her clothes, and said, it's fine if we don't divide the family property. Wanning has so much dowry, but when Xiaomei gets married in the future, she definitely won't have as much. Let's keep Wanning's betrothal gifts for Xiaomei. What a shocking thing to say. My daughter's dowry was put together by my brothers. Did you contribute a single cent? Go ask Shinmei's uncle to chip in. My mother was truly furious this time. My father remained silent, his head bowed, but I could see the fury in his clenched fists. You little hussy, my grandmother scolded as she reached out to hit my mother. My grandpa struck my grandma's outstretched hand with his pipe. My grandma wailed loudly. Kai Jinhua, I never thought you could be this shameless. I'm not separating the family. I want a divorce. My grandma was dumbfounded. The crowd was all cursing her. Shinmei's eyes were brimming with tears, looking pitiful and helpless. Grandpa, I'm your granddaughter too. Wanning and I are sisters. If she's getting such a lavish dowry and a grand send-off, what will become of me in the future? Boo-hoo. My grandpa was so angry that his beard was trembling. What does your marriage have to do with my Wanning? Is your maternal family completely wiped out? Did I tell your grandfather to be a traitor? My dad lost his temper this time too. Auntie wept with shame. Shinmei bit her lip, her eyes blazing with hatred. Grandpa pressed a hand to his chest and gave Shinmei a long, meaningful look. Village chief. I want to sever ties with the eldest son's family, from now on, whether I live or die. It's none of their business, he just needs to take care of his own mother. I'm cutting ties too, my dad said. Count me in, Uncle said, stepping forward as well. Uncle was utterly incredulous. He never imagined that my father and second uncle, who had always deferred to him since childhood, would now dare to cut ties with him. I agree, because in the previous life, when Grandpa fell ill, Grandma didn't lift a finger, and Uncle didn't pay a single cent. It was all my mom and my second aunt who took care of him. Grandma is at it again. I want to live with the third son. They're all my sons, so why should only the eldest be responsible for taking care of me in my old age? My grandfather sneered. The eldest has been married for over 20 years and hasn't contributed a single cent to the family. Instead, he keeps coming around to mooch off us. The second and third have been giving you money for over 2 decades. Even by common sense, it's his turn now. My grandma was speechless. Uncle's family naturally disagreed. Aunt's family background was unfavorable. And without my grandfather's large clan, they would certainly have had a hard time in the village. Dad, we're not here to split the property. Please don't disown your son. I haven't had the chance to fulfill my filial duties yet. The uncle cried profusely, looking exactly like a son abandoned by his own father. Yes, father. We haven't fulfilled our filial duty yet. The aunt knelt down as well. My grandfather was a stubborn old man. No one could change his mind. I have my own children and grandchildren, so I don't need anyone else to fulfill filial duties. I've raised you to adulthood, and I've done my part to the fullest. The village chief was also surnamed Shen, a relative of my grandfather's clan, so naturally he sided with him. He made a decision on the spot. Shen Jianbin, you were brought into the Shen family as a posthumous child. The Shen family raised you, saw you married and have children. Give 100 yuan. And that will repay the debt of upbringing. From now on, your life, death, sickness, and old age have nothing to do with us. Uncle Shen Jianbin nearly fell to the floor. Even if he disagreed, it was useless. The village chief was the local tyrant of the village. In the end, after the village chief mediated, the family property was divided into 4 shares, 1 for my grandparents, 1 for my second uncle, and 1 for my dad. That was quite an unusual way to split the family estate. The family assets were split evenly, but there were only 3 rooms in the house. In the end, my uncle and my dad each got 1 room. Grandpa gave Grandma 100 yuan, and she went to live with Uncle, which covered the cost of her share of the house. This 100 yuan was also used to offset the money Uncle was supposed to give Grandpa. After the family split, it's typical to give 5 yuan each month for living expenses, split evenly between Grandma and Grandpa. 5 yuan per person per month. Grandma was dumbfounded. Before, my dad and Uncle would each hand over 50 or 60 yuan every month. Since both of them were carpenters, Grandma was already in a bind, and that very day she was packed off to Uncle's house. In the evening, I opened the dowry Fu Nanchu had sent, and I was truly stunned. I never expected he'd be so bold as to send so many things. Good thing I didn't open the box back then, or I would have definitely been investigated. A pair of gold bracelets, 2 sets of thick cotton quilts, 2 bolts of cloth, a watch, a radio, and a pair of jade geese. These jade geese were clearly no ordinary items. At the bottom of the box was a deposit slip for 2,000 yuan. This is the difference between valuing something and ignoring it. I never expected Fu Nanchu to have that much money. The dowry from the Xiao family was also returned via the matchmaker. 2 thin quilts, a set of pillow towels, 2 towels, 2 enamel basins, and a betrothal gift of 50 yuan. I discussed with Fu Nanchu, there's a radio in my dowry, can we leave it for Grandpa to listen to? Fu Nanchu had no objections. In my past life, I wanted to give the radio from my dowry to Grandpa to listen to, but Xiao Yuqing disagreed. Yet, the radio somehow went missing without a trace. I searched for it for a long time but never found it. When I handed the radio to Grandpa, he absolutely refused to take it. How could I accept your betrothal gift? Take it back. I've got 2, what's the point of having more? Electrical appliances will break down if left unused for too long. Grandpa accepted it cheerfully. Grandpa knew how to get on people's nerves, too. From then on, every day he would sit at the front door with his radio, and a bunch of old men and women would gather around him. 6 On the wedding day, she got up early and put on a beautiful bridal makeup. A bright red dress was very dazzling. Looking at herself in the mirror, unharmed by the trials of her past life. She felt an indescribable mix of emotions. Actually, I still held a grudge about being tricked in my past life into raising someone else's child, but I firmly believed that letting me come back was heaven's way of ensuring good and evil would be repaid. I can't waste my time on revenge. Everything is in the hands of fate. I must honor my parents and live well. I got on the bike, and Fu Manchu rode it around the village once, with a bunch of kids running behind. We arrived at the Fu family's doorstep. He caught sight of Xiao Yuqing, whose military uniform was wrinkled and whose hair was disheveled and face grimy. He wanted to step forward, but Shinmei behind him grabbed his arm. After changing, I went with him to the courtyard to toast. I didn't see anyone from the Xiao family, but Shinmei was still there. I whispered to Shinmei, I wish you and Xiao Yuqing a blissful union, but you'll never make the cut. No matter who Xiao Yuqing marries, your name will never appear on that marriage certificate. Shinmei clenched her hands tightly. I curled my lips into a smile as Fu Manchu carried me into the bridal chamber. His tall, imposing figure pushed open the wooden door adorned with double happiness symbols, scattering the red dates and peanuts from the enamel basin all over the floor. His army green Dacron shirt was soaked through with sweat. He held me steady, saying, "Watch your head," as he bent down, his chin brushed against the top of my head, his stubble tickling me. Laughter rippled through the main room as Auntie yelled out, "Time to tease the bride." I grabbed hold of his shirt at the shoulder. "Kiss, kiss." Someone started the chant. He leaned down, his lips soft against mine, and I felt my cheeks burn. After a little while, the crowd dispersed. He tucked a stray strand of hair behind my ear and asked, "Ning Ning, am I dreaming?" I responded to his doubt with my actions. That night, Fu Manchu was gentle, considerate, and careful. Everything fell into place perfectly between us, having lived 2 lifetimes. It's only now that I truly realize how much I wasted the first one. It wasn't until my 3rd day homecoming visit that I learned Xiao Yuqing had been recalled by the military the day after our wedding. Just like in my past life, Fu Manchu and I went to get our marriage certificate and took our wedding photos. Fu Manchu went into the city every day. I never knew what he did there, but he always came back with a lot of money. I was working at the hospital and knew that the college entrance exams would resume in just over a year, so we started reviewing whenever we had free time. A month later, Xiao Yuqing returned. It turned out that Lu Caixia, the daughter of the village chief from the neighboring village, had taken a liking to him. Xiao's mother started showing off in the village again. I called my uncle and asked him to help expedite the approval of Xiao Yuqing's marriage report. Xiao Yuqing's wedding was rushed. The engagement and banquet were all wrapped up within a week. Maybe I'm the only one who knows why Shinmei has disappeared again. It must be Xiao Yuqing who has hidden her away for her pregnancy. 3 months later, I became pregnant. Fu Manchu took meticulous care of me, personally cooking nutritious meals for me every day. In my past life, I had to wait on Xiao Yuqing's entire family while pregnant. Back then, he must have been giving all his money to Shinmei. I was carrying his child, yet I never spent a single cent of his. Xiao Yuqing frequently returned to the village, coming back several times a month, because Lu Caixia called the military unit every day. But this time, Xiao Yuqing couldn't pass off the fake as real. Because Lu Caixia had never gotten pregnant, I secretly wrote a letter to the village head next door, telling him that his precious son-in-law had another woman on the side. The village head was skeptical at first. He began to discreetly investigate and discovered the existence of Shinmei. Much to my surprise, they didn't go to confront Xiao Yuqing at all. Instead, they acted as if nothing had happened, and Lu Caixia even stopped pestering Xiao Yuqing. This really baffles me. I am a neurosurgeon. During a gynecological checkup, I saw Lu Caixia at the hospital's gynecology department for an examination. A colleague looked at her medical records for me. It turned out she had an abortion, which led to infertility. Sitting in the office, tapping my fingers lightly, I think I finally understand why they put up with Shinmei having a child. When I was 8 months pregnant, a huge scandal rocked the entire village. Lu Caixia found Shinmei, who lived near the military base. Shinmei's baby was just 1 month old. Lu Caixia took the baby to the military base to confront the leadership. In the end, Xiao Yuqing was disciplined and forced into early demobilization without job placement, because the military found out about his promiscuous relationships, and the other party was even a descendant of a major spy. Xiao Yuqing returned to the village, and Shinmei came back too, holding her baby. Shinmei took the baby back to her parents' home. Ever since grandma moved to uncle's house, she had been staying in Shinmei's room. Although aunt-in-law favored sons over daughters, when it came to choosing between her mother-in-law and her daughter, she would definitely side with her own daughter. Besides, Grandma couldn't keep subsidizing them like before. What could 5 yuan a month even do? Aunt built a pigpen out of adobe bricks and made Grandma move in. Her so-called filial son did nothing to stop it. Aunt would occasionally remember to give her some leftover rice, but most of the time, Grandma went hungry. Once, Grandma sneaked home and saw Grandpa lying in his rocking chair, listening to the radio while wearing the new clothes I had just bought for him. She was green with envy. She confronted my father and uncle, asking why, as her biological parents, they wouldn't take care of their own mother. My second uncle was very calm. Mom, you should understand how you treated us in the past. I had to go up the mountain to collect firewood when I was 6 years old, and when I came back, I had to wash clothes for my 11-year-old brother. My grandma cried. She regretted it, but while my uncle could endure it, my aunt couldn't. In the end, my grandma was kicked out by my mom and second aunt. Xiao Yuqing was strictly controlled by Lu Caixia. He had no chance to get close to Shen Mei, and now he had no money to give her. After Shen Mei lived at home for half a year, she was thrown out by her cousin's wife. Having nowhere else to go, she knelt outside Xiao Yuqing's house, holding her child in her arms. To her surprise, Lu Caixia took her in and let her stay at the Xiao residence. But when the child was frail and fell sick, Lu Caixia refused to take them to the hospital, saying, "It's not going to kill them, and the heart's far from being in danger. Who goes to the hospital every single day? They'll be fine once they're older." Xiao Yuqing dared not talk back. Lu Caixia had 4 brothers who once gave him a beating, and from then on, he never dared to challenge her again. Xiao Yuqing had returned to the days of earning work points, a time where going anywhere still required an official letter of introduction. In his past life, he had used his military connections to repeatedly obtain such letters for Shen Mei, allowing her to accompany him as a military spouse. In this life, Shen Mei had nowhere to go. Because the village chief completely ignored her, she had no choice but to stay with the Xiao family, living under Lu Caixia's watchful eye. Lu Caixia beat her as a matter of routine, even hitting the child when angry. In the end, Shen Mei became murderous and put rat poison in Lu Caixia's food. Lu Caixia is dead, Shen Mei has been arrested, Xiao Yuqing had one of his legs broken by the Lu brothers, and Shen Heng wanders around begging for food every day like a beggar, sometimes even collapsing on the ground and convulsing for a while. In this life, I really gave birth to a pair of twins, a boy and a girl, well-behaved, obedient, and healthy. I got into the Jing City Medical School, and Fu Nanchu got into the military academy. When we returned home for the new year with our 2 children, we saw Shen Heng scrambling for food with the village dogs. When he spotted me, he suddenly called out, "Mom." I smiled and said, "You're not worthy of being my son." Done. Story 2. In my previous life, during my most carefree years as a wealthy heiress, I took a liking to my senior Qin He and even used my influence to keep him as my companion for 2 years. Later, I went so far as to force him into marrying me, but throughout our 5 years of marriage, he remained icily distant, growing utterly weary of me. It all came to a head on our 5th wedding anniversary when we had a massive argument. Little did I know, I'd run out and get killed in a car accident. When I opened my eyes again, I was back to the days when I forced Qin He to marry me. In this life, I've decided to let him off the hook and set myself free too. 1. Xia Xia, what are you doing? Why did you suddenly freeze up? Tell Qin He what you're really here for today. Hey Nanxia, you finished playing the guitar, now say something. My best friend Xing Tingting's voice came through clearly in my ears. But, didn't I die? In the dimly lit bar booth, the blaring music pounded against our eardrums while the air hung thick with the mingled scents of alcohol and tobacco. A sharp, throbbing pain shot through my head as I stared at the scene before me, both familiar and unsettlingly foreign. Nanxia, what are you doing? Don't just stand there frozen. Xing Tingting's voice reached me once more. I turned to look at her, only to catch Qin He watching me with a furrowed brow and guarded expression. This wasn't the Qin He I knew after marriage, always impeccably dressed, composed, yet chillingly detached. Could this be Qin He from his university days? Suddenly, my fingers brushed against the guitar I was holding in my arms. Click, a clear, resonant sound rang out from the guitar. In that instant, my mind became perfectly clear. It suddenly dawned on me, I seemed to have been reborn. I had traveled back 5 years, to the day when Qin He's friends and classmates were celebrating his birthday at a bar, the very same day I had threatened Qin He into marrying me in my past life. 2. The first time I saw Qin He was in the auditorium of University A. A highly anticipated mock trial final was in full swing at the time. As an art student, I was only there because my friend dragged me. along to fill a seat, so I had no interest in this mock trial that was filled with legal jargon. At the entrance of the auditorium, a series of vibrant and eye-catching posters caught my attention. I had only intended to give them a casual glance, but when I spotted the words Chin He on one of the posters, I found myself inexplicably rooted to the spot. Chin He's poster was prominently displayed right in the center. In the poster, he wore a simple white shirt with the collar slightly unbuttoned, revealing the elegant curve of his neck. His gaze was deep and luminous, and a confident smile played at the corners of his lips. He exuded a unique charm that was all his own. At that moment, I was spellbound, unable to tear my eyes away from him. When the finals began, I was completely captivated, waiting only to catch a glimpse of Chin He. The plaintiff's attorney presented the arguments with clear organization, precise wording, and meticulous logic. When it was Chin He's turn, his voice was deep and resonant, each word carrying an invisible force. Your Honor, members of the jury, we believe there are numerous questionable aspects in the evidence provided by the plaintiff. His speech was measured, steady and powerful, with every argument presented flawlessly. With a slight furrow of his brow, his profound eyes radiated focus and determination. His challenges and rebuttals to the plaintiff's evidence struck with the precision of sharp blades, hitting every critical point. From that moment on, I knew I was completely swept away by this love at first sight, and Chin He became the one I couldn't get out of my mind, the person I longed to be close to. 3. After that, I tried every possible way to get closer to Chin He. I also learned that he was a first-year graduate student in the law department, but Chin He had no interest in me, always turned me down, and kept his distance. Back then, I was still the wealthy heiress my father doted on and cherished. After failing to win him over, I had a momentary lapse of judgment and, leveraging my status as a rich heiress, made a financial deal with Chin He. I asked him to be my boyfriend. At that time, Chin He's mother was critically ill and urgently needed a large sum of money for medical treatment. Under the weight of life's pressures, he had no choice but to accept my terms. However, he did set one condition: our arrangement would only last for 2 years. During those 2 years, I did enjoy Chin He's warm and attentive care as his girlfriend, but that was just him fulfilling his duties to his benefactor. His heart always remained behind a thick wall of ice, never truly opening up to me. The 2-year agreement was about to expire, yet my obsession with him only grew deeper. My sole focus became how to force him to be with me. So in my past life, I devised a plan. On his 24th birthday, I cornered him into publicly agreeing to marry me. I remember preparing meticulously for Chin He's birthday, spending months practicing the guitar. Today, I performed an original song for him, pouring my heart into every note. After finishing the song, I declared in front of all his friends and classmates, Chin He, this song is for you. We've been together for 2 years now. Will you marry me? I vaguely recall his face turning ashen in an instant. He turned me down without a moment's hesitation. He said, Nanxia, you know we're not right for each other. I won't marry you. But back then, I wouldn't take no for an answer, so I gripped my phone and whispered a threat in his ear. If you refuse, I'll call your mother right now and tell her your son has been my kept man for 2 years to pay for your medical treatment. At that moment, Chin He's body went rigid in an instant. He stared at me with clenched fists, his eyes blazing with fury and resentment. That entire day, he never relented and agreed to marry me. It wasn't until later, when his mother was on her deathbed, I spent a whole month running around taking care of his mother. After earning his mother's approval and her dying wish for me to marry Chin He finally agreed to marry me. 5. But the truth is, a forced marriage never bears sweet fruit. My 5-year marriage with Chin He felt like an endless nightmare. Though he married me to fulfill his mother's dying wish, he remained emotionally distant and neglectful throughout our marriage. He'd rather bury himself in work day and night than spend time with me. Our relationship was plagued by constant cold wars and arguments. The agony didn't end until my life was cut short by that car accident. Given a second chance at life, all those humiliating memories came flooding back. 6. The pain was so intense my whole body trembled. Taking in the scene before me, I drew a deep breath and tried to calm my turbulent emotions. There's still time. Everything in this lifetime can still be set right. I cannot become the cage that traps Chin He, nor can I force both our remaining years down a dead-end path. Seeing the guarded look in Chin He's eyes now, all my internal alarms started blaring. 7. Then she said to Xing Tingting, sorry Tingting, I suddenly felt a bit dizzy just now. Xing Tingting muttered under her breath in frustration, you always choke at the worst possible moment. Then she gave me a push and said, the song's over, the guitar's been played, didn't you have something to say to your boyfriend? Spit it out already. I understood what she meant. Just like in our previous life, she's pushing me to propose to Chin He. Most of the Guests today are Chin-hee's friends and classmates. I know some of them, but others I haven't met before. But Chin-hee doesn't like me getting too familiar with his friends and classmates, so I'm not really familiar with them." Just then, Chin-hee's senior Feng Lan spoke up, no text to translate. With a smile on her face, she said, "Chin-hee, you've got quite the girlfriend. She even played the guitar to express her love for you. Such genuine affection. I'm genuinely moved." Feng Lan is a straightforward, emotionally intelligent person who doesn't sweat the small stuff. In my past life, I had numerous conflicts with her, and I was always the one who provoked her first. Because Chin-hee shared common interests with her and grew very close, I feared she would take Chin-hee away from me, so I constantly targeted her. But seeing Feng Lan again now, I'm so relieved. This is just our first meeting since Feng Lan broke the ice. I quickly added, "Yes, it's Ahee's birthday today." As his girlfriend, I sang a song to wish him a happy birthday. 8. This song was just written recently, and today is actually the first time I've performed it in front of so many people. If you notice anything that could be improved, I'd really appreciate your feedback. After all, I'm still planning to release this song online later. Hearing this, Xing Tingting grabbed my arm and pinched it. "Nanxia, what nonsense are you talking?" I gently patted her, signaling her to calm down. Then she added, "And I hope you'll give me plenty of advice, senior." After saying that, I secretly breathed a sigh of relief. I hoped this awkward approach would help shift the mood after that heartfelt song I'd just played. Hearing this, Feng Lan laughed brightly. "Oh my, the way you were acting just now. I thought you and Chin-hee had planned some grand marriage proposal." I was just thinking, for such a big occasion, Chin-hee didn't give us the slightest hint. I chuckled. "It's all a misunderstanding. I wasn't planning to propose, just wishing Ahee a happy birthday. In that case, let's all raise our glasses together to wish Chin-hee a happy birthday." As she said this, Feng Lan picked up her glass and proposed a toast. Seeing this, everyone raised their glasses to wish Chin-hee a happy birthday. The awkward and flustered atmosphere was swept away, replaced by the blaring music and lively chatter. I glanced up at Chin-hee and found him looking back at me. His eyes held a flicker of confusion, but what shone through more clearly was intense wariness. Xing Tingting huffed angrily, leaning close to my ear and gritting her teeth as she said, "Nanxia, what kind of mischief are you up to now? Weren't you planning to force Chin-hee to marry you today?" I shook my head gently and whispered back to her. I suddenly realized that forced affection isn't sweet. Chin-hee and I shouldn't keep dragging things out like this. Xing Tingting stared at me, her face a picture of sheer disbelief. "Nanxia, this change in you is way too sudden. Have you been possessed or something?" I let out a bitter laugh. It just hit me. Instead of clinging to Chin-hee and earning his disdain, I should let go and focus on living my own life. Xing Tingting suddenly pressed her hand to my forehead and exclaimed dramatically, "Nanxia, what miracle cure have you taken these past couple of days? How did you suddenly cure your chronic love addiction?" Alright, I'll fill you in later." With that, I grabbed Xing Tingting's hand and made to leave. I couldn't stand being in this place a moment longer, but just as I reached for the door, Chin-hee approached. 9. His steps were measured, yet his expression was scrutinizing. He stepped closer, lowering his head slightly as his hushed voice carried an undeniable intensity. "Nanxia, your behavior today is unusual. What exactly are you trying to do?" I met his gaze with composed sincerity. "I genuinely just wanted to wish you a happy birthday and share my new song, nothing more." Chin-hee let out a soft scoff, yet the skepticism in his eyes remained undiminished. "We both know it's not that simple." He paused, a flicker of concern in his eyes. "You're not planning something reckless again, are you?" A bitter feeling washed over me. I took a deep breath, trying to keep my tone even. "I was immature before and caused you trouble. It won't happen again. I've come to understand, and I'll respect your wishes." Chin-hee furrowed his brow slightly and said, "I hope you're telling the truth." With that, he gave me a deep look before turning and walking away. After we stepped out, I managed to shake off Xing Tingting and took a cab back to my apartment by myself. On the way back, I picked up a case of beer. Sitting on the couch, watching the bubbles rise in my glass, I felt a tumult of emotions. I never really cared for alcohol, but today was different. I kept downing one bottle of beer after another in a daze. My mind drifted back to the 3rd year of my marriage to Chin-hee. It was the year we fought the most bitterly back then. A project my father had invested in ran into serious trouble. Not only was he entangled in lawsuits, but he also lost more than half of his fortune overnight. 10. I was no longer the wealthy heiress who could spend money without a second thought, yet I believed it was my money that had won me Chin-hee. The moment I ran out of money, I was seized with overwhelming dread. Around that time, Feng Lan happened to invite Qin He to become her business partner in establishing a law firm. Qin He accepted. Without the slightest hesitation. When I found out, I had a huge fight with him and wrecked half our home. Qin He, known for his composure, pointed at me for the first time and called me a lunatic. He even insisted on divorcing me, but I refused, preferring to torment each other every day rather than let go. Eventually I gave in. I agreed to let Qin He and Feng Lan start a law firm, on the condition that he wouldn't divorce me. He also represented my father in several lawsuits, helping him recover significant losses. That year, Qin He and I ultimately didn't get divorced. 11 But Qin He's work kept getting busier, and he came home less and less often. Our already strained marriage gradually turned into more of a roommate arrangement. It wasn't until 5 years later that we started having the same exhausting arguments again, this time about my desire to have children. Looking back now, I realize I should have let Qin He go much earlier. I drank too much tonight, after being sick until 1 or 2 in the morning. I finally crawled into bed and curled up to sleep. 12 I don't know when it happened, but at some point, someone was standing by the bed. You can't just sleep like this. I made some sober-up soup. Have some before you go to bed. In my dazed state, I saw Qin He leaning over me with a bowl, calling my name. At that moment, tears suddenly welled up in my eyes. When people drink too much, they can black out and become disoriented. In this moment, I saw the Qin He before me as the same man I'd been married to for 5 years. My voice trembled with hurt as I confronted him. Qin He, I thought you didn't care about me anymore. Why are you suddenly showing concern today? Do you have any idea what my life has been like these past few years? I suddenly sat up, tears streaming down uncontrollably. Every single day I waited for you to come home, for you to just look at me. But what about you? You're always busy. Busy with your cases, busy with your career. What do I even mean to you? After all these years, have you ever loved me at all? All I want is a child. Why are you so against it? Are you just itching to divorce me? I saw Qin He furrow his brow as he asked, what divorce? Well, it was at that moment that it suddenly dawned on me. Realizing what I had just said, I smacked my forehead in frustration and muttered, sorry, I've had too much to drink, must be talking nonsense. Qin He didn't seem to mind. He gave a nonchalant before handing me the bowl. Drink the hangover soup before you go to sleep. Okay, thanks. I took the bowl from Qin He and downed the hangover remedy in one go. Qin He took back the empty bowl and turned to leave, but I called out to stop him. So, what brings you to my place all of a sudden? Didn't you tell me yesterday that you'd be back tonight to keep me company? I let out an oh. It just occurred to me that I'd actually given Qin He the passcode to my apartment, so he could come over anytime I needed him. It's been so long, I completely forgot about it. After watching Qin He leave with the bowl, I felt all my strength drain away and collapsed back onto the bed, overwhelmed with discomfort. 13 I'm not sure how much time passed, but then Qin He slipped into bed beside me, his skin still damp from a shower. My body went rigid instantly. What are you trying to do? Qin He's ears flushed red as he retorted with a hint of accusation. You summoned me here. Wasn't it precisely to have me share your bed? A sudden jolt ran through me, sobering me up almost completely. I almost forgot. After being with Qin He for half a year, I pestered him until we finally became intimate. From then on, my craving for Qin He's body became insatiable. I wanted to cling to him all day long, but Qin He was quite resistant to it. Still, we'd end up doing it about once every couple of weeks. Right now, every fiber of my being is screaming at me to turn around and hold Qin He tight, but my rational side insists that I must cut all ties with Qin He from this moment forward. So in the end, I stammered out, and no, that's all right. You can take the guest room. Later, Qin He went to the guest room, while I spent the whole night tossing and turning in agony. When I woke up the next day, Qin He had already left. 14 But he'd left breakfast waiting for me on the dining table. If I remember correctly, this was around the time Qin He was finishing his master's degree. It was also when his mother's condition began to deteriorate. After breakfast, I went back home. First, in my previous life, it wasn't until 6 months after Qin He's mother passed away that I saw in the news that a doctor abroad had actually developed a specific drug to treat her condition. Long before, it just so happened that this breakthrough wasn't made public when his mother fell ill, so we never knew about it. This time around, I've decided to ask someone to track down that doctor. If I could cure Qin He's mother's illness, it would be a good deed worth doing in this second chance at life. When I arrived, my father was walking out with his arm around a woman, holding the hand of a 3 or 4-year-old child. That child was my father's illegitimate son. Actually, in my previous life, I had known since the second year of my marriage to Chin-hee that my father had an illegitimate child, but I'm not the least bit upset. My parents divorced when I was young, and my mother moved abroad soon after. All these years, my father has been both mother and father to me, raising me single-handedly. He could have remarried long ago, but he never did, worried that I might not get along with a stepmother. As for this woman, I secretly looked into her background in my previous life. She owned a restaurant and met my father after her divorce. She was a down-to-earth, decent woman who genuinely cared for my father. After learning about their relationship in my past life, I encouraged my father to bring her home openly and properly. I still remember how the child looked at me timidly and called me sister. Now I've run into them 2 or 3 years earlier than expected. This time, ignoring my dad's surprise, I walked over and patted the child's head, saying, "I'm your sister, how about calling me sister?" The child immediately ducked into his mother's arms. I looked up at my visibly flustered father and said, "Dad, please bring auntie and little brother home, I truly don't mind at all." It took my father a moment to process this before he finally replied, "Oh, okay, yes," though in the end, he still raised his hand to wipe his eyes. That day, I joined them for a reunion dinner. After dinner, I asked my dad to help me get in touch with that doctor overseas. 2 days later, we heard back from abroad. 15. The doctor agreed to provide us with the special medication, though the price was a bit steep. I immediately sent the payment to secure 1 course of treatment. When I went to the hospital to visit Chin-hee's mother, I didn't expect Chin-hee to be there too. Chin-hee's mother had met me long before and had always been very kind to me, but Chin-hee seemed somewhat uncomfortable after seeing me. After chatting with his mom for a while, I asked Chin-hee to step outside with me. "Chin-hee, the 2-year deadline we agreed upon is almost up. Starting today, just focus on taking care of your mother. There's no need to come see me anymore, and don't worry, I'll continue covering your mother's medication and medical expenses. I've also imported a batch of specialized medicine from abroad, specifically for her condition." Chin-hee seemed puzzled by my words, furrowing his brow as he asked, "What do you mean?" "It means our relationship ends here," but Chin-hee blurted out instinctively, "Why?" I chuckled, "What do you mean why? Isn't this what you've been counting down the days for? Or do you not believe what I'm saying?" Chin-hee pressed his lips together, and only after a long pause did he speak. "The 2-year period isn't up yet. We'll talk when it is." I knew Chin-hee was a man of principle and stubbornness in his mind. Since the deal was set for 2 years, he would stick to it for the full 2 years. "In that case, I won't insist." I waved my hand and said, "Suit yourself, there's only a month and 18 days left anyway, you can leave on your own when the time comes." With that, I turned to leave, but Chin-hee grabbed my arm and said, "How much is the special medicine?" "I'll pay for it." I really want to ask, "Where did you get the money?" but in the end, I held back. Our agreement doesn't cover the special medication. Chin-hee is settling accounts with me. Maybe it's better this way. Now he won't have to worry about me threatening him anymore. I've already covered the cost of the special medication. I'll have someone send you an itemized bill with the exact amount. Just pay me back within 2 years. Chin-hee nodded and thanked me. After parting ways with Chin-hee, I called my father's assistant and asked him to negotiate a lower price for the medication before preparing a detailed invoice for me. 16. With his current financial situation, Chin-hee simply couldn't afford the specialized medication costing hundreds of thousands. Since Chin-hee had wholeheartedly helped my father in our previous lives, consider this my way of repaying the favor. Thanks to the specialized treatment, Chin-hee's mother gradually began to show signs of recovery. I visited her at the hospital several times. Chin-hee was usually around, I just kept out of sight and didn't speak to them. In this lifetime, I'll try my best to avoid any contact with them. But I never expected that on my 5th secret visit to Chin-hee's mother, he actually spotted me. He cornered me at the hallway bend and asked, "Since you're already here, why not come in for a while? My mom still misses you quite a bit." I shook my head. "Please give auntie my best, but I won't be coming in. Things have been hectic lately." "What's keeping you so busy?" "Just setting up my studio. My dad saw me lazing around all day and insisted I find something to do, so I've decided to open an art studio. I majored in painting in college and graduated about a year ago." Chin-hee let out an "oh," then said, "Well, I won't keep you if you're busy." "Alright." I gave him a nod and turned to leave. I had only taken a few steps when Chin-hee called out, "Wait." I turned back, puzzled. "What is it?" Chin-hee said somewhat sheepishly, "If you need any help, just call for me." "Oh, alright, got it." I won't call him, not now, not ever again. Over a month passed in the blink of an eye. As agreed, I terminated the contract with Chin He and made all the necessary arrangements for his mother at the hospital. 17. Chin He said he wanted to take me out to dinner, but I turned him down, using my busy schedule with setting up the studio as an excuse. We shouldn't have too much contact with each other. Little did I know, one day when I was home alone getting drunk again, Chin He showed up. It was Xing Tingting who called him. It all started when Xing Tingting called me from across the ocean. I was drunk and ended up taking a nasty fall. I was fine, but my phone screen went completely black when Tingting heard my silence on the other end and couldn't reach my dad. She panicked and called Chin He instead. Chin He showed up in no time. I never changed the door code, so he just walked right in. When he entered, I was slumped over the coffee table in a satin nightgown, groggily fiddling with my phone. The room was warm and toasty, but Chin He brought in a chill with him. What are you doing here? My brain is too drunk to think straight. Xing Tingting called and asked me to come. Are you okay? Oh, I'm fine. I held up my phone. It's just, my phone got smashed. But Chin He's gaze fell on my knee. Where did you fall? It's already bruised. Oh, you're right. I must have hit the floor when I fell earlier. With my fair skin, even minor bumps tend to leave bruises. I usually don't pay much attention to them. Chin He grunted in acknowledgement, then returned Xing Tingting's call before deftly retrieving a bottle of medicinal liquor from the drawer. Come here, let me apply some medicine for you. I crawled a few steps toward him, completely unaware that I was wearing a spaghetti strap nightgown. Oh, okay. As I crawled forward, an empty expanse opened up before me. When I looked up, I saw Chin He's ears and neck flush crimson. Chin He was remarkably attentive. He meticulously examined my body, found several more bruises, and carefully applied ointment to each one. 18. Then he carried me back to bed and brewed me a hangover soup. After I finished the soup, Chin He didn't leave, but sat by my bedside reading a book. Chin He, aren't you leaving? I'll leave after you fall asleep. Just the thought of Chin He being there kept me awake. In a sudden rush of impulse, I reached out my arm toward Chin He and said, if you're staying, then keep me company. After a long pause, I heard Chin He reply, all right. Every time I recalled this incident afterward, I was filled with regret and self-reproach. What came over me? How could I let desire override reason like that? That night, Chin He kept rising and falling without rest, so much so that when I woke up the next morning the bruises on my body seemed to have multiplied. Waking up in Chin He's arms, for a moment I thought I'd traveled back to our wedding days. Back then, his love for me wasn't exactly wholehearted, yet every time I pestered him long enough, he'd inevitably surrender to desire. His stamina was remarkable, his endurance even more so. After we're done, I always end up lying face down in bed for the whole next day, and on those days, Chin He would wait on me from dawn till dusk, his face flushed red. Those were probably the happiest moments of my life, but today, I can't help wondering. Let's make sure this never happens again. After that morning, I actually spent the whole day buried under my blankets, sleeping, but I ended up kicking Chin He out. 19. I also changed the door code. For a long time after that, I was genuinely occupied with my studio work. I never contacted Chin He again, nor did I see him later. I heard he co-founded a law firm with Feng Lan. I thought to myself, his life was finally getting on track. Chin He's mother has been discharged from the hospital as well. According to the doctors, the special medication is working remarkably well. She just needs to complete 3 more treatment courses to make a full recovery. In his previous life, Chin He's mother passed away early, leaving him to face the world alone. This time around, his mother will likely be by his side for many years to come. The next time I saw Chin He was when he came to repay the money he owed me. I was still living in that apartment, and he was waiting for me at the entrance. 20. I'm here to pay you back. I opened the door and said, come on in. I treated Chin He as I would a friend. The total cost of the special medication, 330,000, is all on this card. The pin is your birthday. I took the card and casually slipped it into my bag. You'll probably need more of the special medication later on. When that time comes, just contact him directly. I left him my dad's assistant's phone number. Okay, got it. Chin He's tone came off a bit stiff. I didn't keep him for long. Thanks. Before leaving, he said to me once more, if there's anything you need help with, just call me. I shook my head. I don't think there will be anything. In this lifetime, I stopped my father from investing in the project that nearly bankrupted our family in the previous life. Nowadays, although the economy is sluggish, several companies have shut down. Still, it's a vast improvement over my previous life, so I probably won't have any situations where I'd need Chin He's help. 2 years later, I heard he had become a highly sought-after attorney. His law firm had also expanded from 12 people to over 121. And I heard that Fong Lan confessed her feelings to him. If they get married, their union would be a powerful alliance, and they'd thrive together. As for me, I'll stick with my studio and live a quiet, ordinary life. Another winter has arrived. When I saw the first snow falling, I didn't take the bus home. Instead, I walked back to my apartment step by step, letting the snowflakes fall on me. 22 In my past life, what I longed for most was for he to hold my hand while crossing the street on a snowy day, and then take me back to build a big snowman together. It's just such a pity that this never came to pass. Halfway there, I unexpectedly ran into He. He wasn't using an umbrella either, walking toward me through the falling snow. I smiled and greeted him. Long time no see. He paused for a moment, then smiled back and replied, yeah, it's been a while. Would you like to grab a meal together? I shook my head. No need. I promised my dad I'd join him for a family dinner today. Oh, I see. All right then. See you. Goodbye. And hopefully, it's goodbye for good. My dad has already taken my stepmother and younger brother abroad for a vacation. What family reunion dinner are you even talking about? The only thing left is my unwillingness to have anything to do with He anymore. Extra story 1. He in a past life. When I received the news that Nanxia had already passed away, I was actually surprisingly calm. End of main story. I calmly informed Nanxia's father and stepmother, then methodically completed all the necessary paperwork at the hospital. The car crash was devastating. Nanxia had essentially died on impact. Watching my father-in-law clinging to Nanxia's body in the hospital, I was consumed with self-blame. If only I hadn't argued with Nanxia, would she still be alive? But my father-in-law patted me on the shoulder and said, don't blame yourself, it wasn't your fault. I tried to console him too, saying, what's done cannot be undone, all we can do now is accept it and take care of ourselves. Yet he replied, as a parent who has to bury their own child, I'm afraid I'll never truly recover from this. But you're still young, don't dwell on the grief too long, you must look to the future. I didn't respond to him because I wasn't upset, not even the slightest bit. In fact, I even felt a sense of relief. I spent a week calmly handling Nanxia's funeral arrangements, then immediately threw myself into work. I was swamped during that period, and since I had no feelings for Nanxia, she simply didn't cross my mind. It wasn't until 3 months later when things finally settled down. Sitting alone in that empty room, I wondered why I never bothered to get closer to Nanxia back then. Was I being too cold-hearted? 5 months later, when I saw Nanxia's photo again, I wondered why I hadn't followed my father-in-law's example, at least lifting the white cloth to see her one last time before the cremation. After all, that would have been my final chance to lay eyes on her. A year later, I found myself asking why I was always arguing with Nanxia. Some reasons I can't even recall now. I just remember feeling annoyed with her and giving her the silent treatment for a long time. To recall those details, I deliberately scrolled through Nanxia's social media feed on a sleepless night. I kept scrolling all the way back to when we first met. There was a lot of content, mostly documenting the little moments we shared together. For instance, the times I took her out for a meal, went shopping with her, or bought her small gifts. She always seemed so happy about them. I found myself smiling without even realizing it. I never expected she'd remember all those little kindnesses I showed her. There were also a few private entries, of course, though the content wasn't explicit. It was clearly posted during a moment of deep distress. Thinking back to that specific time, the first entry was about how she wanted us to honeymoon in Sanya right after we got married. I turned her down, thinking it wasn't necessary. She asked me through tears, we're married now, why can't you even try to love me? I didn't try to comfort her. Maybe I didn't even realize I should comfort her. The second incident happened in our second year of marriage, when my senior colleague wanted to invite me to co-found a law firm with her. After I agreed, Nanxia threw a huge tantrum and smashed things around the house. Back then, I thought she was completely unreasonable, acting like a madwoman with such volatile emotions. We're already together, so why does she keep thinking I don't love her? I'm growing more and more regretful about marrying her. And the third one was from a year ago. On her birthday she posted a picture, a mother holding a child. Maybe she really wants a child, but without an emotional foundation between us, how could we possibly raise a child well? After seeing her social media post, I started letting go of thoughts about her. Sometimes, when I accidentally come across something related to her social media posts, I still find myself frozen in place. Then I'd buy something she used. To like before leaving until one year, a client I hadn't seen in ages asked me out for a meal. She brought a box of date paste cakes and said, "Attorney Cheen, I remember you mentioning your wife really loved these date cakes. It just so happened that a few days ago, I picked some dates from my yard and made some date paste cakes myself. Take these home for your wife to try." I waved my hand and said calmly, "My wife passed away 3 years ago." "Oh, I'm so sorry, my apologies." The client kept apologizing to me profusely, but it was as if I couldn't hear a word because it suddenly hit me. Nansha was truly gone. She would never argue with me again. She won't see the gift I gave her, nor will she post about it on social media to show off, and she won't even eat her favorite date paste cakes anymore. Extra story 2, Feng Lan. In this life, Cheen, he was my junior. The one I'd been chasing for years but could never catch. Before I even met him, people were talking about this new first-year grad student in our department, tall, aloof, and handsome, but not one for socializing. Then one day, I ran into him by chance. Just like the rumors said, he was genuinely good-looking and genuinely avoided human interaction. He's not interested in anyone, guys or girls. Rumor has it a line of girls chasing after him could circle the classroom, but none of them caught his eye. Everyone assumed he was just picky and had high standards, but his roommate said that's not the case at all. He just doesn't get romance and has no clue how to date. We were laughing at the time, thinking who on earth doesn't understand emotions or how to be in a relationship. What a load of nonsense. Then one day, we saw his girlfriend. She was a wealthy heiress named Nansha. We were all sighing about how this unapproachable flower wasn't incapable of love. He was just about to be plucked by the wealthy socialite. Others said it was the heiress who'd been relentlessly pursuing Cheen, and that he actually had no interest in her whatsoever. I've never been one to pry into gossip, so I never bothered to verify any of it, that is, until Cheen's birthday party, where I finally saw the girl for myself. She sang Cheen a heartfelt song, and it looked for all the world like she was about to propose, but I could tell from Cheen's expression that something was off. Maybe he had no idea this was coming. In the end, the girl didn't propose. She just said she'd simply written a song to wish Cheen a happy birthday. Well, it turns out we were wrong. Not long after, I heard they had broken up. By then, Cheen had already graduated, but he had even more admirers than during his college days too. I started to feel a stirring in my own heart as well. To get closer to him, I asked him to be my partner in starting a law firm. Cheen is exceptionally talented and hardworking, though somewhat aloof. He handles everything with impeccable thoroughness. I found myself growing increasingly fond of him. I even mustered the courage to confess my feelings to him earnestly, but when he heard this, he responded with chilling detachment, not a trace of emotion in his voice. "I'm sorry, senior, but I don't have feelings for you." Instead of being discouraged, I became more determined with each setback. Yet no matter how hard I tried, he never showed the slightest emotional response toward me. I thought I really wasn't his type, but then I saw with my own eyes how mercilessly he turned down all sorts of beauties and completely ignored those who showed interest in him. That's when I realized he's genuinely clueless when it comes to matters of the heart. So how is it that Nansha gets to be with him? It wasn't until later that I had this bizarre dream. In the dream, Cheen and I were still business partners, but he was married and his wife was Nan Xia. Their marriage was never built on love, but rather a transaction and compromise from the very beginning. After marriage, they frequently engaged in arguments and gave each other the silent treatment. Sometimes their conflicts even spilled over and affected me. At first, I thought Nansha was the one being unbearably annoying. It took me a while to see through it all. Honestly, Cheen was to blame for this too, because Cheen never understood love, nor how to truly love someone. Nansha's love burned fiercely, while Cheen's was ice cold. Their marriage lasted only 5 short years. In the 5th year, Nansha died in a car accident. Nansha's death initially had little impact on Cheen. He continued with his daily routine as usual, going to work and living his life. Nansha's existence and death were nothing more than an ordinary passerby in his life. It wasn't until a year later that Cheen gradually began to change. He started frequently spacing out and daydreaming, always making a point to bring back women's items from every business trip. From the 3rd year onward, he would visit Buddhist temples whenever he had a spare moment. The young woman in our office mentioned she was scared of the dark and ghosts when working late. He said coldly, "What's so scary about ghosts?" But later I found a crumpled paper ball on his desk. On it was written a huge ghost. He even wrote, "Why haven't you come to see me?" It suddenly dawned on me then, Cheen was actually missing his late wife. But this sentiment of his came far too late, didn't it? Later, Chin he never remarried for the rest of his life. He was not yet 50 when he died of a heart palpitation at home. Even in death, his hand still clutched a Buddhist amulet. On it was inscribed Nanxia's name. The day after I had this bizarre dream, I went to find Chin he. Then I told him about the dream. For Chin he remained aloof and indifferent when these topics came up, but when I mentioned, in the dream, you didn't love Nanxia and kept thinking about divorcing her, I noticed his hand stirring the coffee involuntarily tremble a few times as if struck by a sudden thought. He muttered to himself, divorce. I paid no attention to his reaction and continued pouring salt on the wound. What a shame. You never got to divorce Nanxia. She passed away in a car accident during your 5th year of marriage. Counting the time, the accident from my dream should happen in just a few months. Do you think she'll end up just like in my dream when the time comes? Chin he's head snapped up to look at me. Oh my, listen to me, what nonsense am I even saying? Nanxia hasn't been with you in this lifetime, so nothing bad will happen to her. At those words, Chin he slowly relaxed his posture. I casually changed the subject and remarked, you know, I visited Nanxia's studio recently and noticed a young guy there who's clearly pursuing her. Seems like things are getting serious between them. Chin he fell silent at that, just staring down into his coffee cup. He didn't even bother adding the sugar he usually takes. I just smiled without saying a word. It's quite poignant to think about the Chin he and Nanxia from my dreams versus the ones in reality. Chin he, do you really not have any feelings for Nanxia at all? I highly doubt that. Otherwise, in the dream, he had many chances to divorce Nanxia, but it never actually happened. Was he really forced by Nanxia, or did he never really want a divorce in the first place? Just like in this lifetime, ever since we founded the law firm several times, I noticed Chin he staring intently at a particular spot outside the window. When I stood in the same position and looked, I realized it was in the direction of Nanxia's studio. Sometimes, our unconscious actions reveal the truest feelings in our hearts. On several occasions, Chin he would rush off the moment his shift ended. When I secretly followed him, I discovered he was lingering around Nanxia's studio. How could anyone believe he doesn't have feelings for Nanxia? I have my doubts. When the first snow began to fall, I casually mentioned to Chin he, hey, did you know, your ex-girlfriend turned down that young guy's confession? That same afternoon, I saw Chin he braving the snow and heading near Nanxia's studio. 5. This time, he ran into Nanxia from a distance. I couldn't make out what they were saying to each other, but Nanxia just shook her head and walked away. Chin he remained standing there long after she had left. I couldn't help but scoff. You fool, you'll never catch up with her in this lifetime. Story 2. Shurji is my stepbrother. I thought he disliked me because he was indifferent to me, so I deliberately picked on him everywhere. It wasn't until after I died my soul followed him to the basement. I watched as he kissed me in the room covered with my photos, put a ring on me, and then committed suicide. Only then did I realize he didn't dislike me. He was crazy in love with me. I was reborn for another life. When he asked me what I wanted to do again, I lowered my head and kissed him. I want to fall in love with you. Later, the situation reversed. I ran out of the bathroom covering my waist, but I was grabbed back with great force. In front of the mirror, the corners of my eyes were red, and I felt extremely wronged. Can I quit this relationship? No way. Be good, I'll be gentle. Let's do it one more time. Double reincarnation. 1. After I drowned in the sea, my soul didn't dissipate immediately. Instead, it floated in the air. Watching as my body was fished out, there were a lot of people around. My mother was among them, crying on my stepfather's shoulder. I clicked my tongue, forcing down the sourness in my heart. I pretended to be relaxed and said, you always scolded me. Now that I'm dead, do you regret it? Hey, if you feel so guilty, are you going to find a good geomantic burial site for me? You were stingy with me when I was alive. You should be more generous to me now that I'm dead. As I thought about it, I started to feel amused. This time, my mother will finally have to spend a lot of money. Why did she always spend money on my stepbrother when I'm her biological son? But the next second, I froze. I saw my stepbrother, Shurji. Suddenly, he rushed out from nowhere, pushed everyone aside, and held my body in his arms. No matter how others tried to persuade him, he wouldn't let go. He was about to leave while holding my body. My mother cried even louder. My stepfather rushed forward to stop him, but when he heard that my mother had fainted from crying, he went back to take care of her. Just like that, my body was taken away by Shurji. I was stunned. I watched as he put my body in the car and drove all the way home. Before I came to my senses, I was so angry that I started cursing, realizing that he couldn't hear me. I became even angrier. Fine, fine, you didn't show me a good face when I was alive, and now you won't even let me rest in peace after I'm dead, right? I knew Sergei disliked me, but I didn't expect him to dislike me so much too. We were in the same class in high school. He was a top student, the first in the grade, and the teacher's favorite. As for me, I was called the school bully euphemistically. To put it bluntly, I was a good-for-nothing hooligan. If it weren't for my good painting skills, I probably wouldn't even be able to reach the admission line of a third-rate university. We were originally two people with no intersection, but in our sophomore year of high school, my mother married his father. He became my stepbrother. After learning this news, the look in his eyes when he looked at me became even colder. I'm not someone with a good temper. I hate it the most when others show me a bad face. I stared back at him on the spot. Since then, whenever we met, we would definitely confront each other, and we would even have a fight from time to time. Every time this happened, the teacher would talk to me and ask me to bring my mother in. After my mother knew about it, she would scold me. She was like a mother hen protecting her chicks, afraid that Sergei would be wronged. I even suspected that Sergei was my mother's biological son and that I was picked up by her from the trash can. After being scolded like this, I was even more annoyed with Sergei. He couldn't stand me. He disliked me. I deliberately got close to him, picked on him, and annoyed him. When he was unhappy, I would be happy. He looked down on my poor academic performance in my senior year of high school. I secretly studied really hard, plus, the cultural score requirements for art students were low, so I managed to get into the fine arts department of University A. But things didn't go as I had hoped. Although Sergei and I were in the same university but in different majors, we were still assigned to the same dormitory. We argued for another 4 years. I finally managed to graduate and thought I wouldn't have to face that cold face anymore. But then I was drowned. Just thinking about it makes me so angry. 3. I followed behind Sergei and watched as he carried my body into the basement. I had lived in this house for so long. The basement had always been locked, and I had never been in to take a look. Sergei casually pressed the switch. The lights instantly illuminated the entire basement. After seeing the layout of the room clearly, I was stunned. Then I widened my eyes. The walls were covered with my photos starting from high school. There were photos of me in class, playing basketball, taking a nap on the desk, all kinds of them, hundreds in total. He took all these photos secretly. However, before I could be surprised, I saw him place my body on the large bed in the middle. He even changed me into a new set of clothes. He mumbled to himself, "I know you hate the feeling of being wet the most. Every time you get caught in the rain, you can't wait to rush back and take a shower immediately." He silently adjusted my body. His expression was calm. It was as if I wasn't dead but just asleep. After tidying me up, he stared at me for a long time. Finally, he took out a ring from the drawer and put it on my finger. I recognized that ring. It was the same as the one on his hand. At that time, I even taunted him, asking if a bookworm like him could find a girlfriend. After hearing that, he gave me a meaningful look. Rarely, he didn't argue with me. I didn't want to make myself look stupid, so I didn't keep asking. Now that I think about it, the way he looked at me back then wasn't innocent. After putting on the ring, the tips of his ears turned completely red. He carefully lowered his head and kissed me gently. He whispered, "Jeon Yu-bai, there is someone in this world who loves you. I love you." After saying that, he hugged me and slit his wrist to commit suicide. Looking at this scene, I pursed my lips. I couldn't hold it in anymore, and tears silently rolled down my face. I cried. The night something happened to me, I had a big argument with my mother. It was as if I wanted to vent all the grievances I had accumulated over the years, saying all kinds of harsh words. I said she didn't love me at all. She had my stepfather and Sergei in her eyes, but never me. There was no one in the world who loved me. After venting, I slammed the door and left. I wanted to go to the beach too, relax, but I encountered a heavy rainstorm and high tide, and I was dragged into the sea and drowned. This fool doesn't think I committed suicide, does he? He even committed suicide for love with me. At this moment, I suddenly realized Sergei didn't dislike me. He was crazy in love with me. For when I opened my eyes again, my soul turned into a physical body. Sergei, who had just committed suicide while holding me, was now sitting in front of me perfectly fine. His expression was cold. I was stunned. I couldn't help but stare at Sergei for a while, and then I glanced around the empty classroom. I still felt it was incredible, so I simply reached out and pinched Sergei's face. After seeing his furrowed brows, I let go of my hand. Was I reborn? Was this not a dream? And judging from the situation, I was reborn to the time just after the military training in my freshman year. I sat on Sergei's desk, looking down at him. Sergei wasn't angry even though I pinched him. Instead, he looked at me with burning eyes. After a long while, I heard him ask in a hoarse voice, "What do you want to do again?" That's right, in the past 6 months, our relationship was at its worst. Every time I came, I would pick on him and I would also mock him unilaterally a few times, but this time the provocative words circled in my mind and turned into, "I want to fall in love with you." Upon hearing this, Sergei froze all over. He stared at me steadily. There were emotions in his eyes that I couldn't describe: madness, struggle, fervor, and a hint of darkness. After a moment, he regained his calm. I saw Sergei's Adam's apple move, and he uttered 2 words, "No." "Why?" I blurted out instinctively. "Don't you love me to death? Why don't you want to be in a relationship with me?" Before I could figure it out, Sergei picked up his school bag and stood up, but he was obviously in a good mood. Before leaving, he hooked my palm. "You haven't chased me yet. If I let you get me too easily, you won't cherish me." Damn it. What nonsense about not cherishing. I stared fiercely at his back. But when I saw his red ears, I couldn't help but laugh. Was Sergei at the age of 18 really this innocent? Then don't make me chase you for too long. You know I don't have much patience. Okay, 5. I had never been in a relationship before. I didn't know how to chase someone, so I simply opened the chat window with Yu Jingchuan. He was my best friend in high school. There were always many girls around him. He changed girlfriends one after another. He must know how to chase someone. How do I chase someone? Teach me. As soon as I sent the message, 3 question marks immediately appeared on the other side. "You're amazing, Yuzi. So many pretty girls confessed to you in high school, but you didn't agree to any of them. I even thought you were gay. I didn't expect you to fall in love just after starting college. But with your looks, do you even need to chase? What's wrong? Does that girl look down on you?" Me. Why does this guy talk so much nonsense? The more you talk, the more mistakes you make. I'm not planning to come out of the closet right now. Do you understand the sense of ritual? Hurry up and tell me. All right. Yu Jingchuan said a lot. I glanced through it and more or less remembered it. When I got back to the dormitory, Sergei had already read dozens of pages of his major textbook. When he saw me come back, he didn't even raise his head. He just said indifferently, "You finally decided to come back." The words I had prepared suddenly wouldn't come out. In my previous life, I didn't know he liked me. Every time I heard his sarcastic words, I would get so angry that I had to retort to feel better. But now that I know, when I hear these words again, there's a strange sense of jealousy and intimacy in them. I coughed twice and handed him the bag of snacks I bought. "These are for you." Yu Jingchuan said that there are 3 things you must give when chasing someone: breakfast, snacks, and gifts. It was already late at night, so the only thing I could give was snacks, but Sergei didn't take them. I raised my eyebrows, not understanding what he meant. "Don't you like them?" Sergei paused. He picked out a piece of chocolate from the bag. "You can eat the rest. I only want this one." "Are you sure?" "Sure." I nodded and was about to leave with the remaining snacks, but the next second, I was grabbed around the waist and pressed onto the desk. The snacks were casually thrown aside. The man held my waist with one hand and slowly rubbed against my shirt. In a flirtatious way. It felt numb. It was itchy. My breathing became heavier. I squirmed restlessly, trying to break free from him. Then I heard him let out a muffled groan. The hand holding my waist tightened even more. "Don't move. Be good." Sensing something, I froze. I said a bit uncomfortably, "What are you doing? I haven't even caught up with you yet." "I know." I heard Sergei's slightly hoarse soft laugh in my ear. "I just can't help it. Let me kiss you first." 6. Before I could react, a touch of softness pressed against the side of my neck. It touched and then left immediately, but it was still burning hot. My heart was beating so fast that it was scary. I covered my neck and lowered my head, not daring to look at him, but he handed the chocolate to me. "Feed me." Me. He's such a big guy. Does he really need someone to feed him chocolate? I didn't understand. I gave him an annoyed look. I tore open the bag, broke off a piece of chocolate, and stuffed it into his mouth. My fingertips brushed against the corner of his lips. It was like an electric shock. I wanted to take my hand back, but he grabbed my wrist and didn't let go until he bit the chocolate in. Looking at the triumphant smile in his eyes, I suddenly realized, damn it, I was flirted with. 7. I couldn't stay there anymore. I took my toiletries and fled to the bathroom like I was running for my life. In the next half-month, with a lot of classes and various things in the student union, Sergei was extremely busy every day. The way he looked at me became much more resentful. I was happy to be relaxed, but on Saturday, I couldn't laugh anymore. I pointed at Sergei's bed that was soaked with water and said through gritted teeth, "Did you do this on purpose?" Sergei looked innocent. "How could I? I really didn't hold the cup steady." Sergei and I lived in a double dormitory, and there were only 2 beds. His bed was wet and he couldn't sleep on it, so he could only squeeze onto the same bed as me. After a moment of stalemate, I finally Gave in whether it was on purpose or not. I couldn't let him sleep on the floor, but before going to bed, I repeatedly reminded him, "Don't move around or touch me randomly, or I'll beat you to death." Last time he flirted with me using the chocolate, I knew that even in this new life, this guy was still very scheming. Sergey agreed readily, but when he actually squeezed onto the same bed as me, things were different. The bed in the school was very small, it wasn't even spacious enough for one person to sleep, let alone two guys over 8 meters tall. I turned my back to him. I could even feel the shiver of his breath spraying on my neck. His arm was draped over my waist. It was as if he wanted to encircle me in his arms from behind. He held my fingers in his hand and played with them casually. He seemed to really like my hands. He always praised my hands for being slender and long. He said they were hands born to hold a paintbrush. Whenever he was with me, he would hold my hand. Once I was annoyed by him. I couldn't help but ask him, "Sergey, be honest, do you have some thoughts about my hands?" What did he say at that time? Oh, he said, "I do." Sergey has a thing for hands. I wasn't surprised at all. With his crazy behavior of secretly taking hundreds of my photos and pasting them all over the basement, having a thing for hands even seemed like a very normal hobby to me, but now I regret it. "If you don't want to sleep, get out of the bed." We were too close to each other. We were both in the prime of our youth. It was hard not to get aroused. I had already tried to lean against the wall as much as possible. Damn it, he still pressed against me, and in this new life, I don't know if it's just my illusion, but Sergey has become smarter. He used to be cold, withdrawn, and sharp-tongued. That's why we always argued. Now he talks in a sly and coquettish way, always pretending to be round and pitiful. Like a black-hearted white lotus. Jiang Yu Bai. I'm feeling uncomfortable. Endure it if you're uncomfortable, I said impatiently. Sergey didn't say anything. He lowered his head and buried it on my shoulder. After a while, this damn guy not only didn't stop, but he became even more excessive. I couldn't help but sit up directly. I grabbed his arm and was about to pull him up too. "Take a cold shower before the power is cut off. Hurry up." Sergey didn't move. His eyes were fixed on my hand. He looked a bit dejected. "Fine, I'll go right now. I knew you don't like me. You just feel sorry for me." Indeed, how could anyone like a crazy person like me? I could hear the self-mockery in his words. I felt rather uncomfortable inside. Suddenly, I remembered that in my previous life, he had shown his love for me countless times, but when I was confused, he would wrap himself in indifference. He only dared to secretly pour out his feelings while holding my body after I died. Sergey is a crazy person. He's also a coward. Thinking of this, I let out a sigh. I softened my heart again, just this once. After saying that, I reached in. 9. Sergey was really going too far. My hand was already sore, but it still wasn't enough. I kicked his leg. "Come on, that's enough. I have to go to the art studio tomorrow." Upon hearing this, Sergey's breathing became heavier. It was finally over. I clicked my tongue softly. I didn't even need to guess to know what was on his mind. Just as I was about to laugh at him for being a serious hand fetishist, he pressed me against the corner of the bed and covered my mouth. This kiss was not like the previous fleeting one. This kiss was dense and passionate. I almost lost my self-control. When the kiss ended, I leaned against the wall, gasping for breath, my mind blank. By the time I felt Sergey's hand causing trouble, it was already too late. In a trance, I heard Sergey chuckle softly. "Once for each person, we're even now, we're even." My ass, I was the one being taken advantage of both times, but looking at the joy in his eyes, I still didn't curse out loud. Forget it, after all, I like him. 10. After that night, the atmosphere between us changed. No wonder couples all like the ambiguous period. It's really sweet. It was supposed to be me chasing Sergey, but it was him who brought me breakfast, accompanied me to class, and saved seats for me in public classes. Sergey majors in finance, and his class schedule is packed. He always complains that he can't attend my classes. At the end of the day, we can only meet when we get back to the dormitory at night. Fortunately, I'm in the fine arts department, and I have fewer classes than him. When I don't have classes, I go to accompany him to his classes. After more than a month, the people in his class are almost familiar with me. I calculated the time. It's been several months since I said I would chase Sergey. It's time to confess my love. Coincidentally, there's a gathering of the student union in Sergey's college this Saturday. I guess he'll be back very late. It's enough time for me to prepare a surprise, but I didn't expect that Sergey got drunk on the day of the gathering. When I received a call from his minister, I was a bit stunned. The minister also sounded a bit helpless. "There's no way, he's drunk and insists that you come to pick him up." "Okay." I hung up the phone. I grabbed my coat and headed out. Sergey has always been self-disciplined. In the many years I got along with him in my previous life, I never saw him drunk. No, there was probably one time. It was the graduation ceremony. After it ended, I went to have a meal with some friends. Sergi and his friends were also having a gathering in that restaurant. He was drunk. He came over and hugged me tightly, not letting go. He mumbled, "Why do you dislike me so much? Please don't dislike me. Okay, I like you. I like you so much, so much." I thought he had a crush on some girl and was experiencing a one-sided breakup, and I even wanted to laugh at him, but seeing that he was so sad that he was about to cry, I just teased him with one sentence. It turns out that our top student Sergi isn't that popular with girls either. Now that I think about it, he wasn't talking about some other girl, he was clearly talking about me. 11. When I arrived at the private room, I immediately saw Sergi sitting in the corner. He was drunk, but he wasn't causing trouble. Instead, he was a bit cute. "You're sitting here all alone, you're so pathetic. Come on, big brother is here to take you home." After saying that, I reached out my hand to him. Sergi looked up at me while pulling my hand. He retorted, "I'm the big brother." Tisk, fine, you're my ancestor. I'm really dissatisfied with the fact that Sergi is my stepbrother. He's only 1 day older than me. Why is that? Now I can't even take advantage of him verbally, so I pursed my lips in boredom. The next second, he suddenly hugged me tightly. He gently bit my earlobe, looking at the other senior students in the private room who were chatting. My scalp went numb. I wanted him to stop fooling around. Then I heard him whisper in my ear, "I'm not your ancestor, I'm your boyfriend." Afraid that he would say something even more astonishing, I quickly covered his mouth. I greeted the minister and the others and then took him away. Sergi didn't want to take a taxi and insisted on walking back to school. I was too lazy to argue with a drunk person, so I pulled him and walked towards the school. In the north in November there aren't many people out at night. Sergi was walking in front alone, staggering as he walked. His back looked a bit lonely. I couldn't help but follow him, but he wrapped me in his arms with one hand. Sergi buried his head on my shoulder, and his voice carried a suppressed sob. "You always said you didn't want to be in a relationship and thought it was troublesome to chase someone. When I chased you, you didn't respond, so why can't you chase me for once? Once you chased me, I would have agreed." My heart softened. I immediately said, "I did chase you. I've been chasing you for several months, and it's been really hard. So, Sergi, will you be my boyfriend?" In response to me, he put a ring on my hand. "Okay." I glanced at the style of the ring and stopped. I felt an indescribable feeling in my heart. This ring is exactly the same as the one Sergi put on my hand after I died in my previous life, so he bought it so early. 12. Although Sergi was drunk, he was still a drunk person with the ability to take care of himself, except for insisting on hugging me to sleep after taking a shower. He was quite well behaved. In the morning, I was awakened by the smell of food. Sergi had already tidied himself up and was sitting on the chair, flipping through an album. Thinking of the content of the album, my face turned red, and I quickly slipped away to wash up. For a confession, you always have to give something. I didn't know what he liked, so I painted an album for him. Most of the paintings in it were of him. There were also a few paintings of the two of us, whether in my previous life or this life. We had never taken a group photo. With these paintings, we can be considered to have group photos. When I came out, it seemed that Sergi had finished looking at the album. He was lowering his head, and I didn't know what he was thinking. I didn't disturb him either. I silently went to rummage through the breakfast on the table, but as soon as my hand touched the soy milk, I was hugged from behind by Sergi. The man's voice was a bit muffled. "Thank you, I like it very much." I let out a sigh of relief. I raised my hand and touched his head. "Come over and eat quickly, the food is almost cold." This meal was extremely difficult to eat. Sergi was too close to me. He kept touching me, and when I slapped him, the cup also fell over. The soy milk spilled all over both of us. Me, biting back the urge to curse, I took off my sweater and walked towards the bathroom. The moment before the door closed, it was pushed open again. Looking at Sergi, who was also shirtless, I took a wary step back. "What do you want to do?" Upon hearing this, Sergi put on a pitiful expression. He was like a deserted big dog. "I want to take a shower with my boyfriend." 13. When I heard the word boyfriend, I hesitated for a moment. Just in this gap, I was pressed against the wall by Sergi. The cold tiles were against my back, making me shiver. The hot water flowed down along with it. There was also Sergi's burning and forceful kiss. The air was gradually being taken away. My mind couldn't even react. At this moment, Sergi was like a seductive fairy, relying on his good looks and a great figure with broad shoulders, a narrow waist, and 8-pack abs. He set fires all over my body and flirted with me wantonly. I wanted to push him away, but he gently bit my collarbone, as if he was afraid of hurting me. A dense series of kisses immediately landed on the same spot. The man looked at me with his wet eyelashes. Cautiously, his voice was hoarse. "Is it okay?" I didn't answer. He kept asking. And his voice became more and more pitiful each time. My rationality collapsed. I fell for it again. I raised my hand to cover my eyes in frustration, and said in a self-destructive manner, "Fine, fine, hurry up." Less than 2 hours after I said that, I regretted it. Is Sergei a mad dog? I ran out of the bathroom covering my waist, but I was grabbed back with great force in front of the mirror. My chin was forced to lift up. In my ear was the man's dangerous and restrained voice. "Baby, be good, look up. See clearly who's fucking you now." Tears couldn't stop flowing out. I couldn't bear it and bent my waist, feeling extremely wronged. "Can I quit this relationship?" "No way, honey, I'll be gentle. Let's do it one more time." "Okay." I gave him a resentful look, but I softened my heart again because of his calling me honey. "Forget it, just this once." At noon that day, we even missed lunch. From the bathroom to the bed, I was coaxed and bullied by him again and again. In the last second before losing consciousness, I couldn't help but curse, "Liar." 14. After regaining consciousness, I was so angry that I didn't let him get on the bed for a week. Sergei knew he was in the wrong and didn't provoke me again. He would just come to ask for kisses when there was no one around. Sergei became more and more clingy. He even wanted to be with me during the final review week. Seeing that the winter vacation was coming soon, my mother specifically called to remind me not to be petty and not to bully Sergei. This time, I must bring him home with me. I perfunctorily agreed. After hanging up the phone, I still felt a bit uncomfortable. "Are you kidding me? Your son is the one who's being bullied." "Okay." In high school, Sergei and I were in the same class, but not in the same dormitory. Every time my mother asked me to take care of him and go back with him, I refused. I always left early every time. Now that I think about it, I might not have disliked Sergei at that time. I was jealous of him. I was holding a grudge in my heart. Why is it that in this reorganized family, he has both his father's and mother's love, while I'm the only poor thing who's neither loved by my father nor my mother? Thinking like this, my mood became even worse. The next second, an ice cream cone was stuffed into my mouth. I instinctively looked up and realized that I didn't know when Sergei had stood behind me. Our eyes met. He suddenly leaned in and kissed the corner of my lips. He smiled. "It's so sweet." My face immediately turned red. I lowered my head and pretended to eat the ice cream cone seriously. Sergei didn't expose me. Instead, he hugged me from behind and kissed my ear again and again. Just as I couldn't stand it and was about to push him away with a slap, I heard him say, "Jeong you bye. I will love you very much, more than anyone else, so, don't be unhappy." At that moment, the emotions that had been pent up in my heart suddenly disappeared for no apparent reason. 15. My mother didn't expect that we would really go home together this time. She was really surprised for a while, but when she saw Sergei carrying a bunch of luggage walking behind me, her expression wasn't very pleasant. She pointed at me and started scolding. I said, "Why you become so obedient? It turns out you made Sergei carry all the luggage by himself, you naughty child. Didn't I tell you not to bully him? Look at you." As she scolded, she also pretended to come over and pinch my ear. I was used to it, but my mother didn't manage to pinch me because someone blocked her. Sergei had a cold expression and protected me behind him. He said calmly, "He didn't bully me. I'm willing to help Yuzi carry the luggage. Also, Auntie, Yuzi is your biological son. Aren't you taking the wrong side?" My mother was stunned. There was a rare look of embarrassment on her face. She mumbled, not knowing what to say. Sergei didn't care either. He turned around and pulled my hand, heading towards the bedroom. I stared at Sergei's back. For some reason, I suddenly laughed out loud. The moment the door closed, I heard my mother whispering to Uncle Sher, "When did Yuzi and Aji become so close?" The bedroom door was locked. Sergei was helping me take out the things from the suitcase. I was still quite amazed. I couldn't help but poke Sergei's waist. "Why did you suddenly think of contradicting my mother? I've never seen you have such a strong temper before. Besides, I'm used to it." My hand was grabbed. Sergei lowered his head and kissed my fingertips. There was no expression on his face. "I don't want her to say those things about you, not even your mother." I stared at him for a while. I simply hooked my arms around his neck and kissed him. TSK, I seemed to like Sergei even more. 16. Most of the time, my mother isn't a reliable mother. In her eyes, outsiders are always more important than her own family. When someone else came to snatch my toys, my mother would scold me for being inconsiderate and ask why I couldn't let the other children have them. When I fought back against someone who was picking a fight, my mother would tell me to find my own reasons. Otherwise why would they pick on me and not others? Then she would apologize to the person with a smiling face. She didn't care about right or wrong, she only cared about her own face. If I made her lose face, it was my fault, and she would scold me. I was always a useless person, trash, a good-for-nothing, and a shameful thing, just like my father. In her words, she actually knew how to be a mother quite well. She would make breakfast for Sergi, attend his parents' meetings, defend him in front of the teacher, and buy him new clothes, new shoes, and a new phone. Even though Sergi had always been indifferent to her, everyone said that she was a good stepmother. My mother would always laugh widely whenever she heard that, but she forgot I'm her son. I've been lacking love my whole life. No wonder I couldn't resist when I met this crazy guy Sergi. 17 On the eve of the new year, my mother and Uncle Sher were busy working overtime. During the day, when they weren't at home, Sergi and I were lovers. Sweethearts, we went crazy at home, in the car, and in the hotel. We explored and tasted each other's bodies freely. We desperately wanted to convey our love to each other. At night, my mother and Uncle Sher came back. We became brothers again. We tirelessly performed the act of brotherly harmony in front of them. We wore the guise of brothers. We secretly held hands under the table, in the bedroom where they couldn't see. With just a wall between us, we kissed boldly, again and again. The taboo and excitement overwhelmed our minds. We lost control. 18 We were clearly together. We had done both the things we should and shouldn't have done, but Sergi still didn't feel very secure. He always liked to keep a close eye on me. He would say he loved me over and over again and ask me not to abandon him. I didn't understand where this deep-seated panic in him came from, but I instinctively soothed him. For this reason, I held his face in my hands and said seriously, "Then I'll be your puppy. I'll always be by your side from now on." In the third month after arriving in the United States, I have gradually adapted to the life here. I shuttle between the dormitory and the laboratory every day and am no longer confined by love and affection. Lin Guannan and I are now friends, confidants, and the best partners. The ideals that were not realized in my previous life have finally been fulfilled in this life. Later, I heard news about Liang Zhe. It was half a year later. Lin Guannan told me about it. When Liang Zhe was originally going to be imprisoned for kicking Qin Xia to death, the Liang family produced his medical records indicating mental illness, so he was sent to a mental hospital instead. At first, Lin Guannan thought Liang Zhe was pretending. Unexpectedly, Liang Zhe was truly crazy. He holds a doll every day, changes its clothes for it, and gently combs and braids its hair. He likes to hold the doll when he sleeps and sometimes stares at it and cries every night. He always says affectionately to the doll, "I love you, Jie. I will only love you forever and ever. You don't have to love everything about me. I can change for you." Coming back with him was also Qin Xia, my senior sister. "You, don't leave me, don't leave me." The staff are often scared by him when they do the night inspection, and sometimes they avoid him. When I heard this, I was stunned for a moment, but in the end, I didn't say anything. Everyone has their own destiny, and this is the ending he chose for himself. After this incident happened in the Liang family, although there wasn't much impact on their interests, their reputation was inevitably damaged, so they completely removed Liang Zhe from the family register and drove him out of the Liang family. Liang Zhe is now in a mental hospital. He is all alone and helpless. The rest of his life will probably be like this. He also taunted me, asking if I had been rejected by a girl, and that's why I gave the things to him since I couldn't give them to anyone else. Crazy dog is always infatuated. I continued to pursue him, thinking that our relationship had improved a lot recently. I planned to confess to him on the day of graduation, but I received the news of his death instead. I didn't know exactly what he had argued with his mother about. I only heard a sentence at the door: "There is no one in the world who loves me at all." I panicked. I wanted to say that I loved him. It's a pity that I never managed to say those words in the end. After he died, I took his body back to my secret base. There were all the photos of him that I had secretly taken. The reason why I had always been afraid to pursue him too closely was that I was afraid he would find out that I was a crazy person, and that he would be scared of me and dislike me. I was even more afraid that I wouldn't be able to resist and do something excessive to him. I didn't want us to reach that point, but he was dead. I could kiss him boldly and tell him that I loved him. I had never had much attachment to this world until I met Jiang Yubai. Now that he was dead, my attachment was gone. I didn't want to live anymore either. My soul didn't dissipate immediately. Instead, it floated in the air, watching as my own body was fished out. The end. I don't know why a person can still dream after death. In the dream, I went back to the time when I went to retrieve his body, but this time, there was one more person, or rather, one more ghost. I saw Jiang Yubai's soul floating in the air and following me. All the way I saw the shock in his eyes when he watched me kiss him. I saw him crying alone for a long time after hearing my confession and my suicide. At the end of the dream, a voice in the dream asked me. It said it could fulfill one of my wishes. I said, then I want to go back to the time when I just started my freshman year. This time, I don't want to be a coward anymore. When I opened my eyes again, I saw Jiang Yubai. Unlike in my previous life when he was grumpy, this time he smiled at me and said, I want to fall in love with you. At this moment, I knew that he had been reborn too. Two parallel lines finally intersected. Story 2. In a previous life, he married me following his mentor's advice, yet I treated him with extreme coldness until he was killed by a rival. Among his belongings, I found a stack of love letters he had written to me. Every line spoke of the pain of unrequited love. When I opened my eyes again, I had returned to 3 years earlier, the year we were just married. I burst into his room, saw his injured arm, and asked with tears in my eyes, Jiang Yan, does it hurt? He paused for a moment, then resignedly closed his eyes, his voice rough. What now? Are you going to rub salt into my wounds? 01 In my past life, until the day I died, Jiang Yan's love letters were still mocked online. His rival not only took over his business empire but also ridiculed him on camera as a wretch unloved by anyone. In an attempt to clear his name, I was involved in a car accident on my way to the TV station and tragically died. In my last moments, I wished that Jiang Yan would never meet me in his next life. 02 When I woke up from the darkness, I still felt pain. Scattered congratulations reached my ears. Mr. Jiang and Miss Wan, happy first anniversary. Jiang Yan and I, our first anniversary. I suddenly looked up. The bright white light was so intense that I could hardly open my eyes. After a brief ringing in my ears, I found myself at a reception. Around me, glasses clinked. A much younger Jiang Yan was sitting beside me. His expression cold. Blood trickled down his pale knuckles. Drop by drop his hand was injured. A dinner knife fell to the ground. The waiter apologized with a terrified face. I'm sorry, Mr. Jiang. I didn't hold it steady. A surge of sadness welled up inside me. I couldn't help but call out his name, Jiang Yan. Suddenly, a meaningful laugh came from across the table. Miss Wan, I took revenge for you. How will you thank me? Looking in the direction of the voice, I saw a familiar face. Jiang Yan's rival, and the chief culprit of his death in my past life, Song Jingping. I shuddered all over, suddenly remembering that day at our first anniversary banquet. I had argued with Jiang Yan and spitefully said, if I talk to you again, I'm a dog. During the meal, Song Jingping deliberately had someone injure Jiang Yan's right hand. Out of politeness, I coldly told the waiter, I hate blood, please clean it up, thank you. That comment led to a misunderstanding. Jiang Yan simply wiped the blood away from in front of me and continued to discuss partnerships and pain. Because the wound wasn't treated in time, Jiang Yan's precious hand was permanently disabled. It would ache whenever it rained, and eventually, it became the weakness that cost him his life. Now, seeing Jiang Yan emotionlessly pulling out a tissue to wipe the blood in front of me, my heart instantly clenched, aching painfully. I pushed Jiang Yan's arm away and stood up abruptly. Song Jingping, I demand an explanation. My reaction stunned everyone. There was a dead silence. Jiang Yan was taken aback. His dark eyes quickly turned to me, and after a brief moment of heartache, they returned to silence. He closed his eyes. Wan He, no need for this. If you find me dirty, I'll just change my clothes. Wait a minute. He thought I found him dirty. I suddenly grabbed Jiang Yan's sleeve, all my past restraint gone under his puzzled gaze. My eyes reddened with anger as I furiously grabbed a water glass and hurled it at Song Jingping. Song Jingping, apologize to my husband. The room fell silent under the watchful eyes of everyone. I firmly shielded Jiang Yan behind me, appearing wronged. In the palm of my hand was Jiang Yan's cold wrist, trembling slightly from pain, all because I had once said before our marriage, I want a comfortable life. Jiang Yan was determined to secure this deal tonight at all costs. The smile faded from Song Jingping's face as he wiped the water off his shoulder and asked darkly, Miss Wan, didn't you used to hate Jiang Yan the most? What are you pretending for now? The gentle touch under my palm felt so real at that moment. Even without looking at Jiang Yan, I could feel his stiffness. I pulled out a tissue, quickly wrapped it around his wound, and said, this is just a quirk between us as a couple. Something an inhuman thing like you wouldn't understand. Song Jingping's face darkened. Wan He, you. In that instant, I remembered how, in my past life, after Jiang Yan had died, Song Jingping had described him using filthy words. I grabbed anything I could and smashed everything I could at him. Minutes later, Song Jingping was covered in seaweed egg drop soup, his face also marred. As I walked out of the hotel with Jiang Yan, light rain began to fall from the sky. The spring rain was quiet and oil-like. I was still reveling in the joy of being reborn. Suddenly, Jiang Yan pulled his hand away, his tone strained. All right. There's no one here now. I turned back to meet his cool, beautiful eyes and was momentarily spellbound. It was hard to imagine that at this moment, he was secretly writing me a love letter. Jiang Yan avoided my gaze and said coldly, I have a meeting to attend, you should go back first. I won't, Wan He, can we argue another day? I'm just too tired tonight. He stood in the drizzling rain, his delicate and distinct features hidden in the shadows, his eyes dim, the traces of blood on his lips and jaw added a morbid beauty to him. I held his hand, unable to hold back, my eyes welling up with tears. When I spoke again, my voice was tinged with sobs. Jiang Yan, I won't argue with you anymore. Your hand is injured, let's go to the hospital. Okay. He suddenly looked up, disbelief in his eyes, a struggle flickering within. Soon, it returned to stillness. He, how do you plan to torment me this time? Want to rub salt in my wounds? In my past life, I wasn't good to Jiang Yan. He was calm and restrained, his demeanor indifferent, and he married me. Following his mentor's advice, I subconsciously felt that he disliked me. Over the years, we became a resentful couple. It was only upon his death that I suddenly realized how deeply my feelings for him had penetrated my bones. The evening breeze was dizzying, I couldn't hold it in any longer, and I burst into tears while clinging to his arm. Jiang Yan, please don't die, I'm scared. This man, who had always been cold towards me, suddenly stiffened, a momentary melting in the depths of his eyes. He eventually postponed the meeting. Stop crying, I'll go. Jiang Yan remained silent throughout the doctor's treatment of the wound. I was anxiously asking the doctor if there could be lingering effects, my emotions suddenly collapsing as I spoke. After all, following Jiang Yan's death in my past life, I had run around trying to protect his reputation, enduring much disdain and injustice. It seems some habits are hard to break. Jiang Yan's gaze stayed fixed on my profile, his thoughts inscrutable. After the doctor finished with the wound and removed his gloves, he turned to Jiang Yan. Mr. Jiang, your wound is not serious, however, your wife seems quite shaken. Jiang Yan's expression stiffened, and he quietly responded, sorry, my fault, I've been arguing with her a lot lately. The doctor, understanding, joked, try not to pick on her, she seems very attached to you. Jiang Yan covered the bite mark I left during our earlier argument and muttered quietly, understood. When we left the hospital, my eyes were swollen. I held onto his bandaged hand and refused to let go. Jiang Yan's secretary, standing by the car, looked troubled. Mr. Jiang, about tonight's meeting. It was already late at night, and such work intensity was probably why Jiang Yan eventually fell ill. Startled, I moved closer to Jiang Yan. I'm scared to sleep alone. Jiang Yan's expression blanked, his eyes deepening. He. Do you realize what you're saying? Until today, I had never gotten close to him. Let alone acted coquettishly. I buried my head in his chest, as if to say, if he didn't come home with me, I wouldn't let go. Jiang Yan couldn't outlast me in the end. The Rolls-Royce smoothly entered the villa area. As the night quieted, I looked at the familiar villa, and my frantic heart began to calm. Jiang Yan was still alive. We were home. Holding Jiang Yan's warm hand, I was planning how to warn him about some people. As we approached the door, someone suddenly called out to me, he. Didn't you promise to celebrate my birthday with me? The person stood under the streetlight, its cold white light illuminating a tear mole at the corner of his eye. His hood fell back, revealing a strikingly beautiful face. It was my childhood friend, Song Xian, also, from my past life, the relative who stayed by my side until the end. At that moment, I remembered I had promised to meet him earlier tonight, but due to Jiang Yan's injury, it had been delayed until now. Upon seeing him, Jiang Yan stiffened. He coldly let go of my hand. Oh no, he had misunderstood. Again, from the love letters I had seen in my past life, I knew Jiang Yan had always mistakenly thought I liked Song Xian. I wanted to explain, but Jiang Yan cruelly avoided my touch. I have a meeting, I'll go home first. Jiang Yan. Before I could follow him, Song Xian held me back. Speaking gently, he said, the cake is ready, come, get in the car with me. As I watched Jiang Yan leave, my heart was in turmoil. Song Xian, it's not even your birthday today, what are you up to? Song Xian's smile stiffened. I just can't stand seeing him treat you coldly. What's wrong today? I wasn't in the mood to explain and simply stretched out my hand. Where are the documents I asked for? Song Xian's eyes dimmed slightly. Jiang Yan doesn't appreciate it. Why do you still want to help him? In my past life, I was afraid that Jiang Yan would suffer losses in business after finding the information on Song Jingping through Song Xian. I secretly placed it under Jiang Yan's pillow. Jiang Yan probably never saw it, and eventually, he was schemed against and utterly defeated this time. I had to hand it to him personally. Song Xian handed me the documents, then suddenly grasped my hand. Hee, I have a stomachache tonight, could you stay with me? His words were exactly the same as in my previous life. Back then, I saw Song Xian's pale face and was terrified, rushing him to the hospital overnight, but the doctor told me, he's just hungry, it's nothing serious, he'll be fine after eating. So, I pulled my hand away from Song Xian's and said helplessly, go find somewhere to eat, I still have important things to do. With that, I hurried home. I thought that with Jiang Yan around, at least the lights would be on at home, but it was pitch dark all around. Dim light cast from the study. Relying on my memory, I made my way to the study door. There, I saw Jiang Yan's figure. He wasn't in a meeting but was writing something on paper, looking somewhat lonely. The freshly bandaged wound was faintly seeping blood. Jiang Yan was completely unaware. My heart clenched, and I pushed the door open. Jiang Yan, what are you doing? The man sitting by the window was startled and looked up to see me. I rushed over, snatched the pen from his hand, and scolded, do you not care about your freshly bandaged hand? He probably didn't expect me to come back tonight. After a brief moment of surprise, he discreetly covered the finished documents and looked at me silently. I lost my temper. Jiang Yan, have you lost your mind? Have you forgotten what the doctor said? Which is more important, your hand or your work? Do you even care about what I've told you? After a series of questions, a rare blank expression appeared on Jiang Yan's face. I'm sorry, he suddenly apologized. I didn't expect you to come back. I was taken aback, unable to scold him any further. He was probably afraid that I would stay with Song Xian tonight. My heart softened, and I carefully unwrapped his bandage to replace it with a new one. I have nothing to do with Song Xian. Jiang Yan, it's you that I like. The breathing above my head suddenly became very light. Jiang Yan averted his gaze. After I finished bandaging him, he picked up the remaining items and walked out. As if avoiding something, I rushed in front of him, my voice trembling as I confessed for the first time, Jiang Yan, I said I like you. The night was deep. Jiang Yan's eyes were unfathomably deep, his voice hoarse. He said, Hee, let's stop here for today. If you're done making a scene, go to sleep. He still didn't believe me. I pulled out the documents I had just received from Song Xian from my bag and handed them over. Here is Song Jingping's information. I hope you can surpass him. Jiang Yan's gaze fell on the thick stack of documents, a bitter smile of self-mockery flashing in his eyes. I didn't get the reaction I was expecting. Grasping Jiang Yan's sleeve, I asked, why don't you believe me? Is it really necessary to resort to certain measures to make him open up about his true feelings? Biting my lip and blushing, I untied the ribbon of my skirt and then shakily embraced him. I am sincere about you. In the darkness, Jiang Yan tensed up. A faint malice grew in the night air. His large hand suddenly pressed against my waist, and as the fabric tore with a crisp sound, I felt a chill. Immediately after, I was pressed down onto the sofa by Jiang Yan. His eyes swirled with a deep inkiness, his hand tightly gripping my chin. He hoarsely said, Hee, you would go to such lengths for him. It seemed he was angry. Tears welled up in my eyes. Jiang Yan, it hurts. He let out a laugh, cold and devoid of warmth. You deserve the pain for deceiving me. My whole body shivered, clutching tightly at his shirt. I didn't. Jiang Yan seemed furious with me, his rough hand gripping my fragile neck. He said word by word, that document, it's all fake. Hee, you wanted me to follow it, to die at Song Jingping's hands, didn't you? So you could be with Song Xian, right? His words shocked me. What are you talking about? Song Xian is Song Jingping's half-brother from the same father. Hee, didn't you always know? My eyes widened in astonishment. By heaven and earth, in my past life until my death, I never knew their relationship. Realizing this, my face turned pale. So in my past life, Jiang Yan's death was partly because he thought I wanted him dead. Tears streamed down uncontrollably, and ignoring Jiang Yan's fury, I hugged him tightly. I'm sorry, Jiang Yan, I'm sorry. Jiang Yan scoffed with a mocking laugh. Enough. Too much drama makes it unreal. Leave while I can still control myself. I clutched his shirt tightly, my knuckles turning white. I won't go. I've said it, I will never leave you. The air pressure in the room dropped. A calm before the storm. Jiang Yan looked as if he would kill me the next second. So you're betting that I really can't do anything to you? I silently met the gaze of the man in front of me. In his eyes, I saw a growing obsession and madness. I shivered, fearlessly wrapping my arms around his neck. "Hubby, it's too cold, shall we go to the bedroom?" The next second, he flipped me forcefully and pressed me down on the sofa. Jiang Yan's hard, burning body trapped me in a tight corner, dominating my senses forcefully. His cool, bewitching voice came through. "Hee, you started this. If you think of running away, I will kill you myself." I never knew that Jiang Yan could lose control like this. It felt like plunging into a scorching deep sea, helplessly clinging to the driftwood in front of me, anxious and tense. The night was dark, and Jiang Yan's broad palm intertwined tightly with my fingers. The force nearly crushed my bones. "Jiang Yan, I'm scared. You don't have a choice anymore. Tonight." All my cries turned into broken whispers. The night wind stirred the curtains. The starlight outside the window blurred into a hazy halo. At some point, it exploded in the sky, turning into a brilliant trail of light. Helplessly, I looked out at the moon, crying and begging for mercy, only to receive an even harsher punishment from Jiang Yan. "Hee, bad girls must pay the price." The next day when I woke up, my legs were weak. The bed was empty beside me. The chaos of last night's bed, along with the traces left by Jiang Yan, had been cleaned up as if nothing had happened. I checked my phone and found several missed calls, all from Song Xian, and they were from late at night. I hadn't heard them. He had also sent me a message. "Got your ticket. I told you, the VIP seat will always be yours." I glanced at the calendar. Only then did I remember. Next week I'm supposed to hold a violin concert, the only VIP ticket in the center. I had sent to Song Xian. At that time, I thought Jiang Yan definitely wouldn't go. I started to panic. Scrolling through my phone, there were no messages from Jiang Yan. Did he know? I called Jiang Yan, and his secretary answered. "Miss Wan, Mr. Jiang is in a meeting and can't take your call." "Fine." Pretending not to know me after waking up, I said faintly, "Please tell Mr. Jiang I'm feeling a bit unwell." Suddenly, Jiang Yan's voice came through the phone, cold and terrifying. "What's wrong?" I curled up on the bed, letting out a faint moan. I fell when I got out of bed, because I couldn't stand steady. The call ended abruptly. The beeping sound was coldly impersonal. As expected, I had annoyed him. Even coquetry was no use now. After a while, I casually threw on one of Jiang Yan's shirts and wandered downstairs to the living room, then called Song Xian back. He answered immediately. "Hee, why didn't you answer my calls last night?" Touching our photo together, I asked him. "We're best friends, right?" Song Xian's laughter came through the receiver. "Of course, remember back in the orphanage, you wanted to be a violinist, I wanted to be a superstar, and we promised to always be together." Now, those words sounded somewhat surreal. After all these years, had I really seen Song Xian clearly? In my previous life, it was Song Xian who helped me sort through Jiang Yan's belongings. That stack of love letters, seen only by the two of us, ended up being exposed to everyone unexpectedly. I had thought it was the relentless paparazzi, but now, I suddenly wasn't so sure. Song Xian was still talking nonstop on the phone. "Hee, did you receive the gift I sent you?" I looked towards the corner where the gift box was piled up, still unopened. It must have been sent by Song Xian a few days ago. I vaguely remember it was a large plush toy. On stormy nights when Jiang Yan was absent, I would always endure by holding that toy. I briefly responded a few sentences, walked up to the gift box, and unwrapped it. The shiny black eyes of the big white bear looked somewhat goofy and adorable. Although it had accompanied me for a long time in my past life, I always felt a discomfort in my heart. I picked it up, intending to stash it in a storeroom, but unexpectedly, the door suddenly opened. Wearing a short, thin shirt, I struggled to drag the teddy bear and found myself face to face with Jiang Yan, who had just returned home unexpectedly. His gaze paused on the toy, and he pursed his lips without speaking. Why are you back?" I felt somewhat guilty. "I came back to get something." Jiang Yan passed by me with a cold expression. Without glancing sideways, I kicked away the bear and clung onto him tightly. "Jiang Yan," he stiffened, closed his eyes, and said, "Get off." I gritted my teeth. "My legs are weak, I can't stand." "Enough." Jiang Yan suddenly turned around, supporting my waist. "Hee, I don't care about your tricks. You can keep Song Xian's gift if you want, but as I've said, you are mine. You'll never be able to get rid of me." My face flushed inch by inch. Jiang Yan exploded in anger. "I really love him so much." "Husband." Jiang Yan paused, startled by my call. Bravely, I lifted my eyes, giving him a fragile and innocent look. "Song Xian already gave me a gift, why don't you give me one?" He pursed his lips and remained silent under Jiang Yan's icy stare. I cried profusely. "Heaven knows, you married me but do not love me. I might as well be dead." Minutes later, Song Xian's teddy bear was thrown out the door by Jiang Yan. I sat by the window, now wearing a brand new diamond necklace. Jiang Yan, aren't you going back to work? Without a word, Jiang Yan bent down and kissed my incessant talking lips. It was still daytime. I was dragged from the front door to the upstairs bedroom, previously penniless, now adorned with a necklace and a bracelet. That crazy Jiang Yan even put a bell bracelet around my ankle. I touched them joyously here and there. When did you even buy all these things? Jiang Yan still wore a stern face. He lifted me and sat me on the windowsill. It was then I realized things were getting out of control. Unfortunately, it was too late. Crying, I cursed him as a bastard. Jiang Yan's voice was strained. He. Being messed up by a bastard, isn't it what you asked for? Jiang Yan is a very guarded person. He still refuses to believe the sweet nothings I tell him, yet he couldn't resist my closeness. Fortunately, this time, I had enough patience and time to slowly melt away the barriers in his heart. Lately, everyone around me says I've changed. I've become lovesick. During a break in a violin rehearsal, I twisted like a shy snake in the lounge. On the phone, Jiang Yan sighed helplessly. I'm in a meeting. Just tell me what it is. I called him more than a dozen times a day. Jiang Yan was always very aloof. However, they will all come. This gave me immense courage. Next week, can you come to my concert? There was a pause on the other end. Falling into silence, I didn't give him a chance to react. I'm causing a scene, having a famous violinist on stage, and my newlywed husband doesn't care. I will become the laughingstock of everyone. Never recovering from this fall. Jiang Yan, you're going to ruin me. Okay, Jiang Yan interrupted my rambling. I'll just go. After hanging up the phone, my manager looked shocked. Teacher Wan, you two really have a great relationship. He must be very stable emotionally. Thinking of Jiang Yan's attitude towards me, I felt a bit down. Yes, quite stable. So stable that he doesn't want to talk to me at all. By the way, that VIP seat, the manager smiled slightly. The organizers said they could open a second-floor private VIP room just for your husband. Don't worry, it has the best view in the house. Tomorrow night, you will dazzle him like a fairy. In my past life, I completed a grand and splendid violin solo amidst thousands of flowers and applause. Song Xian, the movie star, sat in the audience, looking at me with a tender and affectionate gaze. That event had once topped the trending search list. Even though I clarified it, people still subconsciously paired us together. No one knew that after the curtain call, I sat alone under the curtain, typing a message to Jiang Yan. Did you see my performance? After hesitating for a long time, I still didn't send it. I was like a love-starved child, trying to stand in a conspicuous place, making a scene, but the person I secretly loved still wouldn't spare me a glance. The concert was as grand as it had been in my previous life. The venue was packed with people, many of whom had come because of my fame. The appearance of the movie star Song Xian pushed the evening's excitement to a climax. You look beautiful tonight. Song Xian stood in the crowd, handing me a bouquet of flowers. Knowing his relationship with Song Jingping, I felt a bit awkward in my heart. Thank you. Song Xian's eyes, bright as stars, rested on my face, seemingly expecting me to say something. I just nodded slightly. It's about to start. Please excuse me. Dressed in a gorgeous outfit, I stood at the center of the stage, my eyes fixed on the middle of the second floor. My palms were sweating with nervousness. It was pitch black up there, completely empty. Disappointed, I lowered my head. Indeed, Jiang Yan hadn't come, but it didn't matter. The stage lights gradually dimmed, and a spotlight fell on my face. Standing in front of the microphone, my voice was soft. Actually, besides the violin performance tonight, I have another important announcement. I know everyone has been very curious about my personal life over the years, even during the holidays. You all start urging marriage. Laughter rippled through the audience. Someone even started chanting Song Xian's name. I leaned closer to the microphone. Actually, I'm already married. I lifted up the large diamond ring on my ring finger, staring blankly towards the second floor, and said with a smile, Mr. Jiang, I love you. The whole venue erupted in murmurs. Who is Mr. Jiang? Could it be that well-known entrepreneur, Jiang Yan? Oh my, this is huge news. I thought she was paired with Song Xian. I totally shipped the wrong couple. Amidst the surging tide of chatter, I raised my violin. Jiang Yan, tonight's performance is played for you. This piece is called Unrequited Love. It was composed by a younger me, all for Jiang Yan. Unfortunately, back then, youthful and fragile in pride, I was overly sensitive. I didn't know how to express myself. That's why we missed out on so many years. The melody of the violin resonates, carrying the bittersweetness of a young girl's first love. echoing through the auditorium at this moment. I didn't know that in the originally empty DIP room, a tall and broad figure stood silently for a long time. His eyes reflected the person at the center of the stage, his heart uncontrollably quickening, pounding against his ribs. A dull pain tugged at him, mixed with an irrepressible joy spreading throughout his body. He raised his hand with his fingertips. He touched the gentle, beautiful face from afar like touching a mesmerizing siren of the sea, fully aware of the peril, yet still willingly approaching alone in the midst of searching and gazing around confusedly. He said with a bitter voice, I'll trust you one last time. If you deceive me again. His fingers tightened in the air, a hint of despair flashing in his eyes. I won't let you go. 09 After the curtain call, I rushed backstage hurriedly. Did Jiang Yan arrive? My manager nodded. Yes, Mr. Jiang wasn't late. Without looking back, I dashed towards the banquet hall, trembling slightly in anticipation of the upcoming encounter. Did he see the gift I prepared? Would he embrace me and say, tonight's performance was spectacular? But I searched the entire venue and did not find him. Song Xian appeared beside me at some point. Were you just acting? I avoided his touch. I have something urgent. He gripped my hand, a bit too forcefully, yet his face wore an enchanting smile. Since when were you and Jiang Yan so close? I shook off his hand forcefully. Shouldn't we be? We are married. Song Xian's face stiffened, his handsome features shadowed, his lips curling slightly. Is that so? But it seems like he has left. That's impossible. Jiang Yan wouldn't leave. Suddenly, my manager came rushing. Teacher Wan, there's been an incident. Someone swapped the gift you prepared for Mr. Jiang. I found this backstage. I looked at the manager. The bottle of champagne I had carefully prepared for Jiang Yan lay untouched in the trash can. The packaging was nowhere to be seen. Jiang Yan had seen that gift box. He must have guessed it contained his gift. The champagne is in the trash. What then was in the gift box? Song Xian chuckled softly. Tonight, I'll present you with a drama. I turned around, meeting his sinister, crazed gaze, my heart suddenly sinking. Song Xian chuckled lowly. Guess, if that scoundrel Jiang Yan knew you tricked him into coming here, what would he think? Did you still love someone who was drugged in the wine you sent him? My brain buzzed. I couldn't hear anything. What did you put in his wine? Facing my pale face, Song Xian spoke lightly. Right now, he's probably in bed, making love with some stranger. And I don't know how I ran out of the banquet hall. I called Jiang Yan many times but couldn't get through. Finally, I had to rush to the front desk. I am Jiang Yan's wife. Could you please tell me which room he is in? The person apologized. Sorry, ma'am, there's no information on Mr. Jiang in our system. The agent was calling the organizers. Check under the name Song Xian. Something struck me, and I grabbed her arm, my voice trembling. No, let him check under Song Jingping. Song Xian was so audacious because he was sure no one knew about his connection with Song Jingping. Sure enough, a few minutes later, I received a room number. Late at night, I ran down the corridor, my long dress trailing behind. I banged on the door. Jiang Yan, open the door. The door creaked open slightly. A glass flew past my ear and shattered against the wall behind me. Get out. A hoarse voice came through, followed by a woman's scream. I burst into the room. The scene was chaotic. The woman's dress had slipped down to her shoulders as she tried to crawl up and throw herself at Jiang Yan. I was furious, grabbing her hair. Amid her screams, I dragged her towards the door. Who the hell are you? Let go of me. Slap. I slapped her hard, and seeing her face, a chilling cold swept through me. Lin Hanxue, the girl who silently loved Song Xian in my past life. I had even helped her, so it was indeed Song Xian's doing. At this moment, Lin Hanxue didn't recognize me. She lay on the ground, her eyes full of resentment. Jiang Yan touched me. I'm going to call the police. The agent covered her mouth. You like calling the police so much? Then let's talk in front of them. At that moment, Jiang Yan arrived with the police, rushing in. Fear finally appeared in Lin Hanxue's eyes. Miss Wan, is President Jiang okay? Jiang Yan's secretary looked worried. I said, tonight, I'll stay with him. I won't let anyone near Jiang Yan until dawn. Everyone left. I closed the door and collapsed on the floor, completely drained. Before I could catch my breath, a large hand suddenly grabbed my neck, pulling me up from the floor. Bang! My back slammed against the door. The strong smell of alcohol overwhelmed my senses. Jiang Yan's eyes were bloodshot. Get out. Tears welled up from the pain, a feeling of suffocation overcoming me. Jiang Yan, it's me, Wan He. Hearing my name, a flicker of struggle passed through his eyes. Yes, I tried To soften my voice, slowly reaching for his forearm, "It's he. I've come for you." A faint blush spread across Jiang Yan's fair face. He is not like this to me." He seemed very confused, his expression pained. "She doesn't love me. He always spoke coldly. You're not her." I saw Jiang Yan's barely stabilized emotions fluctuating again, and in a rush, I suddenly chilled my tone. "Jiang Yan, is this how you treat me?" Jiang Yan stiffened, his eyes misted with a foggy moisture. I steeled my heart. "Take your hands off." Jiang Yan jerked his hands away as if burnt fresh air rushed into my lungs. Jiang Yan leaned against the wall, his head bowed, his eyes closed, his handsome profile hidden in the shadows, his face smeared with blood, conveyed a seductive brokenness, as if he had been wronged. I coughed, my voice hoarse. "Jiang Yan, go back to bed, don't make me repeat myself." His lips trembled. "Okay." I quietly breathed a sigh of relief. No matter the method, as long as he obeyed. He knelt by the bed, slowly lowering his body, breathing erratically. I saw Jiang Yan's ears flushed red and his neck and collarbone tinted with a layer of pink. It was clear, Jiang Yan was in discomfort, but because I was there, he would rather grit his teeth and remain silent, unwilling to let me see any sign of it. My heart softened terribly. I carefully grabbed his tie. He was gently lifted by me, looking up at my face with a devout and confused gaze. "Don't move," I commanded softly. "Kneel properly. I'm going to take off your tie." Jiang Yan's hot breath spilled on the back of my hand, the touch of his fingertips scorchingly tantalizing. I turned off the light. The tie became a bond tying his hands to the bedpost, to prevent him from hurting me in his confusion. He stretched his neck, showing a pleading look. Seeing his helpless appearance, I suddenly felt a wicked pleasure. I leaned over him and gently bit Jiang Yan's lip. "Mr. Jiang, just give in to me." "No." He closed his eyes, murmuring, "I want he." I curved my lips. "I am he. He loves you." He seemed bewitched by me. Quietly, without a word at first, Jiang Yan was obedient. In the darkness, his suppressed, shallow breaths were so enticing. Please don't do this." "Don't do what?" I playfully continued to stir up trouble on his body. However, the moment the tie loosened, everything abruptly stopped. The restrained beast finally broke free from its cage. I started to panic. "Jiang Yan, you bastard, go back, don't touch me." Unfortunately, he couldn't hear anything. In the darkness, the clear ringing turned into the charge of battle. The fierce battlefield spread wildly in the dead of night, becoming more intense, life-threatening. You can't reason with a beast that has lost its mind. You can only be ruthlessly devoured and bitten by him. Then, planted full of his traces, it was excruciating. At dawn, I finally kicked away the frenzied beast, wrapped myself in clothes, and fled. "Miss Wan, you don't look well. What happened last night?" In the police station, Secretary Jiang Yan's reminded me with an unnatural expression, remembering the embarrassing escape that had just happened and being caught on the spot. I wished I could just disappear into the ground, uncomfortably changing the subject. "Can we hurry this up? I need to get back." By the time I left, Jiang Yan had already fallen asleep. Fortunately, the situation hadn't gotten worse. Finish the statement quickly, and let tonight's incident be over. Everyone would be happy. Only a few hours had passed since the incident, and Song Jingping was still unaware that Lin Hanxue had been taken away by the police. By now, the internet was already buzzing with the hot search they had arranged. Jiang Yan suspected of cheating with a hostess. In the photos, Jiang Yan and Lin Hanxue were clearly seen entering and exiting the room in just half an hour. This topic skyrocketed to the top. Netizens lashed out. As expected, all men are scum. Just after He announced her marriage, Jiang Yan slapped her in the face. "Get a divorce. He doesn't deserve He." I was just about to post an update when my manager held my hand. "Wait a bit longer, you have no evidence, and it will only make people think you are silently bearing it, making excuses for Jiang Yan. The police will issue a notice by noon at the latest." The statement was completed at 5:30 a.m. I dragged my tired body back to the room. The curtains were not yet drawn, and it was dim all around. "Wait, why is the bed empty? Jiang Yan, where is he?" I stood there bewildered. My heart tightened, and the next second, a fiery body tightly hugged me from behind. Jiang Yan's lucid voice came through, filled with a broken despair. "Where did you go last night?" I didn't react immediately. I asked you, where did you go last night?" Jiang Yan clenched his teeth, his calmness tinged with madness. I didn't go anywhere, He pressed me harshly onto the bed, his reddened eyes tightening my heart. Did he misunderstand something? Jiang Yan trembled with pain. "Doesn't your heart hurt? You hate me. You could let me die." but why do you humiliate me this way? My mind went blank. How did I humiliate you? Is sleeping with me filthy? This remark provoked Jiang Yan, who let out a desperate laugh. Drugged me, let someone defile me, ruin my reputation, divorce me. And then what? Do you want to see me dead? His lips still bore the marks of my bite, like a young man ravished by someone. I suddenly saw his phone on the bed, displaying the news that had topped the hot search. Jiang Yan thought he had slept with someone else last night. My expression became very strange. Wait, listen to me. As I moved, my dress tore. The next second, my body covered in kiss marks was exposed in front of Jiang Yan. Jiang Yan stopped. Despair surfaced in his eyes. He trembled as his lips met mine. Humbled voice. Who did this? Wanhe. Please tell me, who was it? He not only forgot how he tormented me last night but also thought I was cheating. I couldn't hold back the frustration that I had endured all night, and it suddenly erupted. I burst into tears in front of him. Jiang Yan stiffened, unprepared for my reaction, and I kicked him several times. You jerk, jerk, jerk. Who else could it be but you? I only slept for 2 hours last night. How can you not let me sleep? Jiang Yan's face took a solid slap from me. A red mark quickly appeared. He stood there, stunned. Wanhe. A ripple of despair rose from the depths of his eyes, tinged with disbelief. Soon, it spread like shimmering light. I cried loudly and threw my phone into his chest. It had photos I secretly took of him last night. I had intended to keep them to look at secretly later. There was also a short video, thinking to blackmail him heavily once he woke up, but the recording didn't go as planned, and Jiang Yan, breaking free, turned the tables. The video plunged into darkness, capturing my pleas and curses. The voices that would normally cause embarrassment now rooted Jiang Yan to the spot. Panic flickered in his eyes as he looked at me helplessly. Wanhe, I thought it was a dream. What about you? I couldn't contain my anger any longer, my long-suppressed petulance bursting forth. You want a divorce, don't you? Go ahead, you faithless scum. Jiang Yan was nearly kicked off the bed by me. That finally snapped him back to reality. He grabbed my wildly kicking legs and held me tight. I will take responsibility. Ignoring my struggles, he said, as long as we don't divorce, you can do whatever you want. Hours later, I abruptly opened the door. I stepped out with an air of authority, arms crossed. People waiting at the doorway turned their gaze towards us. Jiang Yan, in his suit, followed me, a tall figure in silence. Reporters swarmed us. May we ask if the rumors online are true? Did you really betray Miss Wan by having an affair with a hostess? Jiang Yan said nothing, his dark eyes fixed on me, as if he heard nothing else. I flipped my hair and covered my mouth, feigning surprise. No way, spouses can't even check into a hotel room without you gossiping about it. The person from last night has been taken to the police station. Please stay tuned for the police report later. The barrage of questions from everyone gave me a headache. Jiang Yan coldly swept over the crowd, covering my ears. Excuse us. With that, he led me away from the crowd. His men held back the throng of journalists. Once we were far enough, I shook off his hand and got into the car. Throughout the ride, I couldn't help but feel a bit smug. I always feel like I'm missing something. Jiang Yan silently looked at me. Just a few hours ago he was nearly overwhelmed by darkness, yet now he seemed unusually compliant. I raised my hand. Don't you think my thumb, index, middle, and little fingers are missing a few rings? Who would be kind enough to give them to me? Jiang Yan pursed his lips, uncomfortably shifting his gaze. I'll buy them for you. In a second, I snuggled up to Jiang Yan, smiling warmly at him. Jiang Yan, he swallowed, closing his eyes briefly. I love you. This time, he didn't ask me to leave. Instead, he looked at me and awkwardly responded, I love you too. As the parties involved, Jiang Yan and I went to the police station. After understanding the situation, the police quickly issued a notice. Lin Hanxue was temporarily detained pending prosecution. As the news spread, discussions swirled online. It was inevitable that there would be gossip. I can't believe he would cover for such a man. Exactly, who would want such a sleazy man? Upstairs, they're probably just a union of interests, probably doing their own things behind closed doors. Haha, no matter what, Jiang Yan is still a damaged cucumber. Jiang Yan and I returned home. As I opened the door, I continued to nag and caution him. Don't pay attention to the nonsense on the internet. People just say things, don't take it to heart. In my previous life, after Jiang Yan's death, rumors about him were rampant, driven by Song Jingping. There was even a time when antisocial elements splashed gasoline on Jiang Yan's tombstone, fearing he would get hurt. I went to check his phone. Log out of your account. You're not allowed to log in these days. Before I could finish, Jiang Yan held me tightly in his arms. We didn't turn on the lights in the villa. Time quietly flowed in the silent night. Hee, my body belongs only to you, don't abandon me. Eventually, Jiang Yan shed his tough protective shell and bared his heart to me. Tears welled up in my eyes as I buried myself in his embrace. Jiang Yan, I have a story. Do you want to hear it? I told Jiang Yan a lot about our missed connections in the previous life, about Song Jingping's despicable acts, about my past with Song Xian, about the people Jiang Yan should be wary of, but when it came to the end, I fell silent. Jiang Yan listened intently and hit the nail on the head with his question, how did I die? I shuddered in his embrace, as the nightmare that had tortured me countless nights swept over me again. You fell off a cliff. Song Jingping tricked you, saying I was at the mountain top. During your climb, someone tampered with the brake pads, and you were thrown out of the window. Holding Jiang Yan's cold fingertips, I sobbed uncontrollably. You had an old injury in your hand, you couldn't even grab the last branch. To this day, the words Jiang Yan is dead still haunt me like a nightmare. When I arrived at the scene, all I saw were the wrecked vehicle and chaotic scratch marks in the mud. Jiang Yan had fallen into the ravine. His body was never found. Every time I dream of it at midnight, imagining his appearance before his death, my heart aches so much that I can't breathe. Falling from such a height, how painful it must have been for him. Jiang Yan gently patted my back and kissed my forehead. Let's not talk anymore. Let's stop here for tonight. I stubbornly held on to him. The people I just mentioned, you have to remember them. Jiang Yan's eyes were deep, filled with enchanting tenderness. Silly hee. I know all these people. I was stunned. Jiang Yan managed such a vast business empire. How could he not be shrewd and calculating? The information I had gathered was merely glanced at by him before he dismissed it as fake. But why in my previous life? Seeing my confusion, Jiang Yan sighed, lowered his head, and kissed me. Hee. In this world, you are the only one for whom I would willingly die. If you asked it of me, I would stop struggling. Tears hung on my face, already cold. I suddenly stood up, staring blankly at Jiang Yan. I won't let Jiang Yan die. But what if someone impersonates me? Song Xian. My murmuring tightened Jiang Yan's expression. It's Song Xian. I stumbled to my feet and grabbed my phone. Suddenly, my hand was held. Jiang Yan stared at me anxiously, uncertainly asking, Hee, you said you'd always be with me. I shouted hoarsely, damn Song Xian, I'm going to settle scores with him. He and his idiot brother deceived me so badly. Jiang Yan was taken aback for a moment, a flicker of clarity crossing his eyes. Minutes later, Jiang Yan held me as I raged, his lips curling up involuntarily. All right, calm down now. In his arms, trembling with anger, I said, I was definitely deceived by him, that scumbag talking to you. Jiang Yan bowed his head to hug me, burying his face gently in my neck, humming lowly, he is a scoundrel. The buzz about this incident was still suppressed. Lin Hongxue disappeared without a trace. Jiang Yan said, Song Jingping has an underground money house in Beijing, where dirty money cleansed comes out spotless. I suddenly realized, no wonder in my past life, he dominated both the underworld and lawful realms, unchallenged. I sat on a sunlit lounge chair. Jiang Yan watched me quietly, his eyes filled with a soft glow. He suddenly called me, caught off guard. Meeting his dark eyes, I suddenly remembered those unspeakable nights recently, which made my heart race and face flush. Why suddenly call out to someone? This time, I will win. I propped my chin, smilingly leaned closer, my fingers twirling at his collar. So, Mr. Jiang, do you want my help? Jiang Yan's Adam's apple bobbed, gripping my wrist. How would you help? I muttered for a long while. Jiang Yan's face darkened. No. I straddled him. Don't you think Song Xian's resources are excessively good? Both Song Xian and I came from the same orphanage. I was adopted by Jiang Yan's mentor, went abroad to study music, and achieved my accomplishments through the strict guidance of my foster parents, whereas Song Xian reached the pinnacle as soon as he debuted. Good opportunities came one after another, even winning a Best Actor award in his debut year. I always thought it was Song Xian's luck, but now knowing his connection with Song Jingping, I thought of more. Seeing Jiang Yan still stern, refusing to budge, I said smilingly, the business world is your turf, but the entertainment circle might not be as clear to you as to me. Approaching Song Xian is the best strategy, without getting rid of this tumor early. How can I be at peace about having children? Jiang Yan's eyelashes trembled slightly. Children? I pecked on his lips. Don't you want children? Don't you want to give them a stable and happy future? If it's a daughter, would you have the heart to let her live in constant distress from the moment she's born. Jiang Yan's expression gradually became solemn. I won't allow it. Good, we are in agreement then. It was only at this moment that Jiang Yan realized he had been led into my line of reasoning. His voice deepened. Wan he, facing my resolute gaze, he finally gave in. I promise you, but you must return to my side every night, the night before my father's birthday feast. I made a call to Song Xian. The phone rang for a while before Song Xian answered. His voice was husky. He, you finally decided to call me. I sobbed over the phone. Song Xian, you were right. Jiang Yan is a jerk. I shouldn't have helped him. I regret it. The one being called a jerk was currently sitting opposite me, peeling lychees for me. Hearing this, he squeezed the lychee so hard that it bore the imprint of his fingers. Song Xian's voice relaxed. It's good that you've realized. We've grown up together. How could I lie to you? Tomorrow at your dad's birthday feast, I'd bought a gift for you to bring along. Also, you owe me a concert. I bit into the lychee flesh that was handed to me and licked Jiang Yan's fingertips. Seeing his hand stiffen, I murmured contentedly, see you tomorrow. Unsurprisingly, because of these few sentences, I ended up not eating any lychees that night. I was dragged into the bedroom by Jiang Yan, crying. When my father was young, he used to teach at a business school. His students were everywhere, therefore, his birthday feast was particularly grand. Song Jingping was naturally on the guest list. To make the act convincing, I returned home alone in advance. Seeing me come back alone, my parents looked disappointed. How are things with Yan? Over the years since our marriage, the ongoing Cold War between me and Jiang Yan had always been a sore point for my parents. For the sake of a thorough plan, I hardened my heart and replied, it's still the same. On the day of the birthday feast, my relationship with Jiang Yan once again became the focus of everyone's gossip. Jiang Yan entered, greeted his teacher, and mingled with people in the circle as usual. I stood by the railing on the second floor, wearing a light golden mermaid dress, watching Jiang Yan, dressed sharply, surrounded by people, restrained and dignified. Song Jingping was standing opposite him. President Jiang acts decisively, snatching business at the last moment. What kind of hero does that make you? Jiang Yan chuckled lightly. All is fair in war. In business, what makes you or me a good person? I stared at Jiang Yan's profile, lost in thought. Miss Wan. Someone noticed me standing there and waved at me from below. Everyone looked up and gasped. Jiang Yan stopped talking in an instant. His gaze followed the crowds to me. His dark eyes lingered on my face for a moment, then trailed down along my jawline. It felt as if I had been scalded, my ears burning. I suddenly turned and descended the stairs under Jiang Yan's watchful eyes. I walked toward Song Xian, who was waiting on the side. Song Jingping swept away his earlier gloom and burst into loud laughter. Successful in business, unlucky in love. It seems Miss Wan prefers the young and handsome. I dared not look back at Jiang Yan. In my heart, I had cursed Song Jingping 800 times. Did he not know that his casual remarks would lead me to misfortune tonight? Just as Song Xian was about to provoke Jiang Yan, I pulled him back sharply. Shut up. In the past, Song Xian and I loved playing in the small garden. Years later, the garden remained lush and verdant. Watching Song Xian digging, I asked, are you related to Song Jingping? Song Xian stiffened, his back to me. Did Jiang Yan tell you? Yes. Before he could react, I thumped his head twice. You have a wealthy brother and you didn't tell me sooner. Are you an idiot? Are you an idiot? Song Xian, dazed by my hits, his usually brooding eyes suddenly softened. Wan, I faced him, anger written all over my face. If I had known your brother was rich, I wouldn't have married Jiang Yan. Song Xian's expression remained unchanged. He stared at me for a moment, a smile blooming in his beautiful eyes. No way, you can't marry my brother either. I'd rather have you stay with me forever. Suddenly, a memory from a past life flashed through my mind. After Jiang Yan's death, Song Xian squatting in front of Jiang Yan's tombstone, saying the same words. Back then, my heart was shattered, and I pushed his hand away. Not long after, I died in a car accident. The warm spring sun shone down, yet I felt a chill all over. Trying to sound casual, I asked, what if I refuse? Song Xian's handsome face remained smiling. The teardrop mole under his eye seemed more enchanting as he smiled. Then I'll just have to bury you in the ground. A shiver of dread ran up my spine. I froze, unable to speak. Suddenly, Song Xian clutched his stomach, laughing so hard that tears came out. If I can't scare you to death, Wan, then you are really an idiot. Don't you dare curse me next time. Impatiently, I brushed his hand away. Your brother is so rich, and you don't get me some money to spend, yet you expect me to stay with you. Ridiculous. Song Xian resumed digging. If you want, I can get some for you. It's not like I don't know how to make money like my brother. I clenched my fists tightly. I lowered my head and took a couple of deep breaths. I couldn't ask any more. Today had to end here. I collected myself and looked up, meeting Song Xian's thoughtful gaze. My heart skipped a beat. What are you doing? Song Xian smirked. Aren't you going to ask me how I make money? Not interested. I pursed my lips. What exactly are you going to give me? He placed a ceramic figurine, covered in mud, into my hands. The craftsmanship was somewhat naive, yet the figurine's features bore a striking resemblance to mine. Song Xian said, I made this before my debut, thinking that if I ever became famous, became a movie star, I'd dig it up and give it to you. Why didn't you give it to me before? Song Xian smiled. A mud doll made by an orphan. Who cares about a big star making something valuable by hand? I'm just worried you might find it distasteful. I initially wanted to say that, regardless of status, a gift from a friend is always something precious to me, but recalling Song Xian's bizarre behavior in my past life, I ultimately didn't speak up. I simply packed up the clay figure and said, it's getting late, let's head back. Okay. The elderly had left the banquet early due to their age, taking advantage of a moment when Song Xian was occupied with greetings. I went back to the bedroom on the second floor to rest my feet. As soon as I entered, my hands were pinned behind me and I was pressed against the door. Jiang Yan's voice was muffled and deep. What have you been up to? Feeling the strong jealousy from behind, I curved my eyebrows and my voice took on a teasing tone. Guess. His response was a domineering and forceful kiss. Suddenly, there were footsteps outside the door. Hee. Are you in the bedroom? The clear knocking sound shattered the intimate atmosphere. Startled, I trembled all over and whispered to Jiang Yan, Song Xian is here. His rough and slender hand recklessly tore away the obstructing barriers. In a second, he plunged me into a tumultuous sea of desire. I held my breath, eyes wide in disbelief. Jiang Yan, you're crazy. It seemed Song Xian was trying to call me. Just as I was about to reach for my phone, Jiang Yan snatched it away and turned it off. He wickedly nipped at the protruding bone at the back of my neck, easily disrupting my composure. Daring to think of him, you bad woman. I bit my lip, unable to resist teasing him. A bad woman you still love. His impact made my voice break. At this moment, I was truly grateful that the door was soundproof. Song Xian couldn't find me and soon left. Jiang Yan's sexy, husky voice brushed past my ear, causing continuous ripples. April 21st, I left a lipstick mark on Jiang Yan's shirt. He didn't confront me. May 13th, my newly bought hot miniskirt grabbed attention. Jiang Yan didn't even look at me. In the darkness, my eyes widened in shock and I started to curse angrily. Jiang Yan, you bastard, who allowed you to sneak a peek at my diary, trapping me in your boudoir, with the diary spread open on the bed. It would be hard not to look. Oh no, I hastily scribbled something last night and forgot to put it away this morning. Jiang Yan seemed particularly moved. He brought me in front of the diary, pinched my chin, his breath hot and tender. Read it to me. My face flushed red, defiantly. Don't even think about it. Ah, do you think I'm too old? Jiang Yan's obsessive streak flared up again, refusing to let me go. Is my body not good? Can't I satisfy you? I was speechless, just shaking my head repeatedly. No, unsatisfied. Jiang Yan seemed not to understand, repeatedly proving himself with his body. Now, still shaking your head, until I cried out. He showered my body with tender kisses, mostly with his fingertips, all because he had seen Song Xian holding my hand. Finally, under his forceful coercion, I embarrassingly read out the secrets from the diary that I was ashamed to reveal. Jiang Yan couldn't hold back. He chuckled softly, with tears in my voice. I angrily rebuked him. How dare you laugh? The next second, he kissed my fingertips. I'm laughing because I've finally seen the light after the clouds have parted. Thankfully, Jiang Yan had the sense not to dirty my pale gold dress. When we reappeared before everyone, I had a stern look on my face, clearly furious. Jiang Yan's face bore a faint imprint of a slap. He remained silent. The guests eyed us both cautiously, not daring to ask any questions. My mother sighed. Between husband and wife, you need to learn to tolerate each other. Remembering Jiang Yan's reckless behavior just moments ago, I glared at him hatefully. I can't tolerate it at all. It was me who was being bullied, yet Jiang Yan acted all innocent and clever in front of the elders. It was utterly ridiculous. Because he discovered the secret in my diary, I was utterly humiliated. From that day on, I moved back into my parents' house. The promise I made to Jiang Yan about coming home every night was also unfulfilled this time. Jiang Yan wisely kept silent. Time flew by, and autumn arrived. In a few days, it would be Jiang Yan's birthday. I secretly planned to prepare a surprise for him. After much effort, I got in touch with an old classmate. Did I hear that you can buy stars there? You mean naming rights to stars? Yes, get me the 2 closest ones. I'll send you the names later. With that settled, I eagerly awaited Jiang Yan's birthday. Jiang Yan had been busy lately, traveling far and wide for business, hardly timely in his responses. I connected with Song Xian. He introduced me to several people from the Song family. Unbeknownst to me, this vast group of parasites had already corroded various industries. Song Xian moved through it effortlessly, no longer the person I remembered. I gathered quite a bit of evidence. Only Song Jingping, being cautious, never appeared within my sight. I wanted to dig deeper, but Jiang Yan seriously warned me, don't follow them anymore, leave the rest to me. With this evidence, Song Jingping's business suffered heavy losses. Perhaps the events of the past wouldn't repeat themselves. Using illness as an excuse, I temporarily cut off contact with Song Xian. Today is Jiang Yan's birthday. Early in the morning, I held a pregnancy test with 2 lines and made a call. Remember to come home tonight. I prepared a surprise for you. Jiang Yan was somewhat reticent today. I chattered a lot. Jiang Yan just listened. Finally, I grew tired of talking. Hearing the familiar breathing sound from the headset, I couldn't help but tease. What are you doing? Why aren't you talking to me? Jiang Yan pondered for a while. Hee. Can you wish me a happy birthday? I was surprised. Don't you know I prepared for tonight for a long time? Jiang Yan laughed. I can't wait. No, wait for tonight. Seeing my determination, Jiang Yan just smiled. I quietly placed the pregnancy test into a box. Tonight's surprise will be something you'll never forget. Hee. I love you. This confession came so unexpectedly. I blushed and quickly hung up the phone. The news of my pregnancy caused quite a stir among the elders. They were overjoyed. Mom, supporting me, said, good, let's go to the hospital. Hurry. Dad held her back. But Yan just told us. Mom seemed to remember something, paused for a moment, then said, let's call the family doctor. I'll phone Dr. Chow. Uncle Chow has been looking after my parents' health for years and watched me grow up. He's deeply trusted by my parents. After examining me, he stroked his beard with a smile and said, hee, it's almost certain, but you should still visit the hospital another day to be sure. The house was filled with joy, and we invited Uncle Chow to stay for lunch. When I went back to my room for a nap, a message from Song Xian suddenly flashed on my phone. Unable to resist the drowsiness, just before passing out, I vaguely saw a sentence, hee, we agreed to be together for a lifetime. I slept very deeply. When I opened my eyes from the haze, I found myself in a moving van. The strong diesel fumes were nauseating. A large hand slowly stroked my hair, and Song Xian's indifferent voice came through. Song Jingping and Jiang Yan, I've had people watch them. Dog eats dog. Neither of them will survive tonight. It took me a while to realize what was happening. Was I actually with Song Xian? Seeing me awake, Song Xian showed a gentle smile. You're awake. Why didn't you tell me earlier about the pregnancy? I shivered, violently shaking off his hand and shrinking into the corner. Why am I here? Song Xian, half his face shrouded in darkness, spoke in a lazy tone. Jiang Yan is really thorough, all thanks to Uncle Chow and his severely ill daughter. Otherwise, seeing you would have been difficult. Seeing me staring at him warily, Song Xian suddenly grabbed my jaw and pulled me towards him. His smile turned sinister. Because of that bastard Jiang Yan, you dared to leave me. Hee, guess how I will punish you. A wave of nausea hit me. I covered my stomach and began to retch. Song Xian's face darkened, and he shouted, stop the car. The van door opened. Cool air rushed into the vehicle. I ran out of the van, leaning against a railing, vomiting uncontrollably. In the distance, the myriad lights of homes twinkled like scattered stars. The wind blew, rustling the leaves. As I saw the scene in front of me, my legs gave way. It was this mountain again. In a past life, Jiang Yan was buried here. I've walked this road countless times. Even with my eyes closed, I could recall every blade of grass and tree. Where's Jiang Yan? I grabbed Song Xian, screaming like a madwoman. Where is Jiang Yan? Song Xian sneered. Probably fighting a life-and-death battle with my brother. He should have known what awaited him at my brother's feast tonight. My body trembled, suddenly remembering the phone call this morning. It felt like someone was gripping my throat. Hee, can you wish me a happy birthday? Don't you know how romantic I've been preparing for tonight? I can't wait. Let's not talk now. Wait for tonight. I covered my mouth, slowly curling up into myself. Jiang Yan never intended to come back alive. His eyes downcast, he lamented. After tonight, the Song family will be greatly weakened, leaving only me to lead those useless fools. But at least, Wan He, you'll die with me. Song Xian's furious shouts echoed through the gorges while he was busy ranting. I grabbed a rock and smashed it hard on the driver's forehead. The driver fell to the ground with a thud. I scrambled into the car, trying to seize the steering wheel, but suddenly, headlights from all around flashed on, illuminating the surroundings as bright as day. Ultimately, Song Xian dragged me out of the car by my hair, his eyes brimming with malice. He laughed angrily. Wan He, why can't you ever learn to obey? You always liked me the most, so why did you let that wretch throw away the teddy bear? Under my fearful gaze, Song Xian grinned. Without it, I wouldn't even be able to see you. A bone-chilling coldness spread throughout my body. He had placed a surveillance device inside the bear's eyes in my past life. I had held it every night as I slept. I roared fiercely, why are you doing this to me? I've never harmed you. Song Xian paused, then laughed. I didn't say you harmed me. I don't hate you, I love you, but sadly, you betrayed me. And now you carry another seed, so, shall we die together? You're insane. Suddenly, someone ran over from afar. There's trouble with little Boss Song. Why panic? That person's voice trembled. Boss Song is dead and Jiang Yan is still alive, Song Xian scoffed. He can't possibly think that with Song Jingping dead, all his troubles are over, right? There's still a bunch of fools waiting to kill Jiang Yan. That person handed over a photo. Jiang Yan was injured, his chest stained with blood. Kneeling on the ground, I began to struggle violently, desperately clutching at Song Xian's hand. I pleaded, please, don't kill him. My humble cries echoed through the woods. Song Xian stared at me expressionlessly. Seemingly amused by the situation, he helped me up and handed me his phone. Let's play a game. I snatched the phone and dialed 110. Song Xian said, the police are all busy over there right now. Jiang Yan's life is likely safe. Of course, you can also call the police to bring them here, but I guarantee, the moment you make the call, Jiang Yan will die a horrible death. I froze, hearing the police's voice from the phone. Hello, 110, how can I assist you? The wind in the mountains blew through my hair. I bit my lip hard, glaring at Song Xian. Here was a ray of hope, now being strangled in its cradle. Song Xian smirked and snatched the phone from my hand, hanging up the call. You're lying, I yelled, grabbing Song Xian's collar in anger. Song Xian laughed. You can choose not to believe me. After all, it's just a lie. Wan He, would you dare gamble Jiang Yan's life with me? I couldn't. Song Xian pinched my face. Wan He, here's your second choice. Call Jiang Yan, say whatever you want to say, since you'll never see him again. Everything around us fell silent. The only sound left was the wind mercilessly blowing through my hair. I slapped Song Xian hard across the face, calling him a bastard. He smiled, pressing the cold barrel of a gun gently against my forehead. Be good, make a choice. Police or Jiang Yan, you die, or, should Jiang Yan die? My breathing was heavy, my vision darkening, my whole body trembling. It turns out that in my past life, my death in a car accident was also by Song Xian's hand. In his eyes, I was meant to be an obedient puppet if I did not comply with his wishes. Death awaited. After a long while, I closed my eyes, hot tears rolling down. I'll call Jiang Yan. Song Xian's smile froze on his lips. Then go ahead, but remember to hide your feelings well. If he senses something's amiss and the police come, you know the consequences. I dialed the number. The cheerful ringtone sounded through the receiver. It was a ringtone I had personally set for Jiang Yan this time. I waited a long time before the call was answered. Jiang Yan sounded unstable. Hee, what's wrong? I'll be home tonight. I knelt in the chilling wind, covering my mouth tightly, wiping away the tears that wouldn't stop falling. The gun tapped against the back of my head. Click. I heard the crisp sound of the gun being cocked. It wasn't until Jiang Yan called my name several times that I managed to force a smile and say, Jiang Yan, happy birthday. He paused, then chuckled. Didn't we say we'd wait until tonight? With a forced smile. I gasped for fresh air. I couldn't wait. I'm too impatient. What about my present? Song Xian grabbed my hair, pulling it back, pressing the gun harder. I struggled to breathe, my voice trembling. There's none. I didn't prepare any gift. I didn't even have time to buy a cake. Jiang Yan paused. Then shouldn't you compensate me somehow? After a long while, I closed my eyes. Then I'll give you half an hour to get home. I'll be upset if you're late. Alright, I'll wait at home like a good girl. If you're scared of the dark, turn on the lights. Jiang Yan, I love you. I love you too. After a few flickers, the screen plunged into darkness. I curled up, crying out in pain. Song Xian snatched my phone away and threw it down the cliff. Get in the car, Feeling utterly defeated, I got into the car and no longer responded to anything Song Xian said. Song Xian began reminiscing about our past as he recounted. I realized his misunderstandings about me had reached absurd levels even when I gave him a pack of snacks. Song Xian thought I liked him. My silence ultimately infuriated Song Xian. He went mad, his tone urgent and terrifying. He bit and gnawed at my lips. Let's die together. Is it okay? Let us be buried together. My eyes had already lost their sparkle. I don't want to die in the soil. Jiang Yan would go mad if he saw it. If I am destined to die tonight, then just like in my past life, I'll fall and vanish without a trace. When we reached a certain point in the tunnel, I suddenly stood up and grabbed the steering wheel. The piercing sound of brakes echoed through the night sky. The car swerved, heading towards the roadside fence. The world turned into a blur of lights and shadows. Song Xian's angry shouts, the driver's terrified scolding, the incessant honking, and the sudden burst of bright white lights mingled together in an instant. They filled all my senses. Boom! A loud crash thundered through the heavens. The ringing in my ears drowned out everything else. The car had been stopped by something. After a brief suffocation, I came to, and a strong will to survive made me desperately pull the door handle. Suddenly, someone firmly grabbed my wrist. Turning around, it was Song Xian. A tube was sticking out of his chest. Blood mixed with foam spurted from his mouth. Die with me, will you? I've come this far for you. I've harmed so many people, you cannot leave me. I saw the pleading in his eyes. Tears rolled down one by one. I didn't speak. I pried Song Xian's fingers off one by one, pushed open the door, and walked out numbly. The surroundings were brightly lit. Red and blue lights flashed everywhere. The sound of police sirens, the buzzing of ambulances. It was so noisy I couldn't discern any direction. I limped towards the front of the van. There was a Rolls-Royce. It was sprawled in front of the van, now emitting white smoke. The car was completely unrecognizable. I let out a dumb, short cry. Blood flowed down, covering one of my eyes. I staggered to the front of the car. I saw a car accident scene just like in my past life. Jiang Yan's car was wrecked. The driver's door was missing. The person was gone too. Terrifying memories surged, and I instinctively ran towards the cliff. Many people rushed up and grabbed me. I fell to the ground, my knees scraped, and I crazily crawled towards the cliff. Apart from the ugly cries, I couldn't utter a single word. Why, even after starting over, is it still the same? Jiang Yan had driven his car, blocking the original path of the van. He died for me. Save people, save people. I pleaded incoherently, struggling frantically in someone's arms. The ringing in my ears made my head ache. The noisy crowd was like garbage, dumped all into my ears. I clutched the ground desperately, my nails lifting, bloodied, until that person forcefully grabbed my shoulders, forcing me to turn around. That's when I saw Jiang Yan, his face covered in blood, kneeling before me. His eyes were red, his mouth opening and closing, but I couldn't hear clearly. My teeth were chattering, my arms trembling, even my skin was quivering like a hideous, terrifying monster. My fingers were deeply embedded into his flesh. Jiang Yan hugged me, stroking my hair. It took a long time before I could barely make out his words. Go to sleep, I'll sleep it off. But this sleep was far from peaceful. Nightmare after nightmare struck me. One moment I was standing at Jiang Yan's funeral. The next I was lying in the cold, damp earth. Then, I saw Song Xian with his hollow, wide eyes fiercely staring at me. I struggled helplessly, nearly drowning in these terrifying dreams, until suddenly, I surfaced, gasping for air. The glaring lights made it hard to open my eyes, and the ticking of machines filled my ears. Pain shot through my body, my bones felt as if they were broken. When Jiang Yan entered, I was clutching the railing, struggling to keep myself upright, nearly collapsing headfirst. He called out, dropping the fruits he was carrying. He caught me in his arms, in a panic. I clung to him, comforted by the steady and strong beat of his heart. Only then did the nightmare begin to fade. Gently stroking my hair, Jiang Yan soothed me. Don't worry, just rest a bit more, wait until you're better. Mom, Dad, and the child, they're all fine, it's just you. His attempt to hide his trembling was unsuccessful. Tears began to soak into my collar. Do you think I could live if you died? My throat was sore and painful from previous screaming, damaging my vocal cords, and I found myself momentarily unable to speak. That day, I followed Jiang Yan closely, not leaving his side. Any small disturbance would frighten me, making me cling tightly to him. Eventually, he had no choice but to curl up in bed with me, holding me as we fell asleep. A week later, I began to talk again. By then, I was feeling much better, though my speech was still somewhat sluggish. Turning on my phone, I saw that the news was dominated by the deaths of Song Xian and Song Jingping. Song Xian died in a car accident, Song Jingping of illness. Overnight, the Song family crumbled to pieces. Below, fans mourned their loss. The turbulent undercurrents hidden beneath this facade of peace were unknown to anyone. This triggered the reopening of numerous old cases, awaiting proper investigation and resolution. Not long after the incident, Jiang Yan acquired all the industries under the Song family, climbing into the top 10 of this year's most influential billionaires list overnight. All suspicions about Jiang Yan disappeared without a trace. In a way, the Jiang family had become a truly low-profile yet vast business empire. I often found myself staring out the window, lost in thought. Memories of Song Xian would occasionally resurface, pulling at my nerves. For those of us who grew up in an orphanage, our reliance on emotional bonds is often much stronger than usual. The pleasant memories of my childhood are my most treasured possessions. Song Xian always said I betrayed him. But didn't he betray me as well? I packed up Song Xian's belongings and, before his cremation, I asked Jiang Yan to deliver them to the funeral home. Those little objects disappeared into the flames, vanishing from this world. The day I was discharged from the hospital, the weather was perfect. I was playfully angry with Jiang Yan because when I sang happy birthday to him, my voice sounded like a duck, which made him try to hide his laughter by quickly bowing his head. I felt like he was laughing at me. When the Secretary General came to pick me up, I stood in the wind wearing a fluffy hat, my face cold, vowing never to speak to Jiang Yan again. Suddenly a gentle voice reached out. "Hello sir, did you drop this handkerchief?" Jiang Yan and I turned around together. We saw a beautiful lady holding Jiang Yan's handkerchief. He nodded politely. "Yes, that's mine, thank you." The girl blushed, about to pull out her phone, but upon catching my gloomy gaze, she suddenly realized something. Muttering an apology, she hurried away. I opened the car door and got in. Jiang Yan followed, asking, "Hee, what would you like to eat tonight?" Mockingly mimicking his tone, I retorted, "A handkerchief, thanks." Jiang Yan paused, then turned to face the window, covering his mouth with his hand. Minutes later, my angry voice filled the car. "Jiang Yan, how dare you laugh? Try laughing one more time." "Alright, no more laughing." No laughing." When Jiang Tuanzi was born, he looked like a little monkey. I held Jiang Yan's face more than once, repeatedly checking. "You haven't had plastic surgery, have you?" Jiang Yan, holding a milk bottle in one hand and supporting my lower back with the other, charmed me with his profound eyes. "Hee, the doctor said the child will look better as he grows." Jiang Yan learned parenting more thoroughly than I did. That month, he tirelessly took care of Tuanzi. After the first month, the child grew up a bit. I could vaguely see Jiang Yan's features in his face. Finally, my anxious heart was put to rest. In a blink, Tuanzi was 3.5 years old. Calculating the time in my past life, Jiang Yan and I only lived to this age. Remembering the overwhelming online ridicule Jiang Yan faced back then felt like another lifetime. I thought Jiang Yan's love letters would remain a secret in my heart, but one morning, this matter was unexpectedly leaked online. Jiang Yan, overseas, received a call from his company's public relations department. "President Jiang, Miss Wan is trending." In the video, I was ranting in a bar while Jiang Yan was not home. Our Jiang Yan, despite his cold and detached appearance, secretly writes love letters. "No way, let me sneak one out for you to see." Netizens were placing bets in the comments. "I bet 50 cents she's bluffing. I'll wager $1 she can get it." 20 minutes have passed. Did she get the love letter? Hashtag can Wani get the love letter hashtag became a trending topic, and it was rapidly climbing. At this moment, I was unaware that I was trending, busy turning Jiang Yan's study upside down. I had found it here in my previous life. Why wasn't it here now? I was frantically searching, left and right. Just as I was about to reach under the desk, the study door suddenly opened. A tall silhouette blocked the light. I quickly rose from under the desk, eyes wide, staring at Jiang Yan, whom I hadn't seen in half a month. "Frozen stiff, hee, what are you doing?" Jiang Yan's tone was very calm, devoid of the warmth of a long-awaited reunion. I grabbed Tuanzi, who looked utterly confused next to me. Pushing forward, I honestly admitted, "She did it, and I was just cleaning up the mess." Jiang Tuanzi, with his toothless grin, called out in a baby voice, "Daddy." Jiang Yan naturally picked up Tuanzi, glanced at the open safe, and raised his eyebrows slightly. "Tuanzi is really smart, even knows the password." "Yeah, haha." I laughed awkwardly and watched in despair as Jiang Yan handed Tuanzi over to the nanny. As the nanny left, she kindly closed the door behind her. I heard Hee went to the bar while I was away. I was doomed. Could he possibly know about my comments on the handsome guy? Just as I was about to discreetly slide under the table, Jiang Yan effortlessly pulled me out from under it and placed me on the table. With a click, his watch came undone and fell into the chair. Terrified, I immediately confessed, "Sorry, I just took a glance," and politely complimented them. Jiang Yan paused and asked softly, "Them, hee, you're quite daring." I was completely terrified and confessed everything in a panic. "I came to steal love letters." His fiery kiss fell upon me, silencing my incessant chatter. "Did you manage to steal them?" Jiang Yan's husky voice made my whole body go weak. Leaning against his shoulder, I said, "I don't know where they are." "And after you steal them?" I remembered the questioning look in my best friend's eyes. "They are to be shown to someone else." Jiang Yan's low chuckle sounded in my ear. Some things aren't meant to be shown to others." "You're lying. I've seen them myself." My words suddenly stuck in my throat. "In this life, everything has changed. In the past life, despite such cold treatment, Jiang Yan's love letters were deeply affectionate. Who knows what he could turn them into now?" Realizing something was amiss, I said, "I won't look anymore." "That won't do." Jiang Yan held me and brought me in front of a cabinet. The surface clearly reflected my sweaty face. I covered my face, embarrassed. Don't. "I won't look anymore. It's too late." Jiang Yan opened a hidden compartment, and a mass of letters poured out. He casually opened one and placed it in my hand. "I love you so much." As I read the words, my face burned red. Pervert. "I won't read anymore. I won't." But Jiang Yan wouldn't let me go, holding my chin, his voice gentle. "I've wanted this for a long time. Will you read it out loud?" In my panic, I slapped him. The moderate force made Jiang Yan laugh. "If you like, we can do it this way too." "Good, try again. You can hit harder." "Jiang Yan, you pervert, let me go. I told you, you can't escape." Looking at other handsome guys behind my back, "That's an added crime." That day, he locked me in the study for 24 hours. After that, I never mentioned the love letters again. Later, when the media asked me in an interview, "Miss Wan, where exactly are those love letters?" This time, I wasn't as spirited as before. Facing the camera, without blinking an eye, I quickly responded, "What love letters? I was just bragging, really."